Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Tom Bilyeu Show live. We're here. It's been a minute to everybody in the feed pointing that out. It really does feel like it's been a long time. So I am very excited to be back with my man, Drew. What is up, Drew?
Hey, welcome back, man.
It's good to be back.
Nice to see you.
It's good to see you. We got Mason over here monitoring the community, boys and girls. So if you have anything to say, make sure that you say it. He's going to keep an eye and make sure that we don't miss anything. So if there's anything you guys have to say about what we're going to be talking about today, which is going to be pretty crazy, boy, oh boy, have some things happened while we were gone. And for a minute, it looked like Trump might be dead. And I was like, of course, while I'm gone. Not that I wish anyone ill, Drew, but if you've got big news like that, I would have been very traumatized to miss it. But seems like he's stabilized, or they've got a good AI version. We'll find out what is true. Shout out to my mans behind the camera. Gentlemen, thank you guys for being here. I know it is an early start, and I appreciate everything you do for the show. All right, we're going to be talking today, of course, the Ukrainian woman that was stabbed to death by a literal madman that broke race riots out on X. That's been wild. I don't know if you guys are on X at all, but seeing that interpretation has been pretty crazy. I think that there is a massive mistake happening at the level of analysis. So we're going to be talking about that. How should people be thinking about that? What's the most sane-making way to approach a problem like that? Getting out of your emotions is going to be the right play. People need to think up from first principles. We're going to be talking about that. And then we're also going to be talking about, has the Fed lost the ability to control interest rates? I don't want to give any spoilers here, but this is exactly why my interview with Lynn Alden is blowing up. And shout out to you guys. We've had 3 #1 episodes in a row: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, one after the other, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10. So shout out to you guys for engaging with the content. Super appreciative. And I think part of the reason that the Lynn Alden one is going so crazy is we are moving into something tied to the physics of money that's known as fiscal dominance. We're going to talk about what that means and why it matters so much to you guys and your pocketbooks. So you're not going to want to miss that one. So stay tuned. Israel bombs Qatar. Trump is very much not happy about this, at least publicly. And if you're wondering, this is what total war looks like. We haven't seen it in a long time, but apparently Israel is going to go all the way. If you don't release the hostages, if you don't exile all the Hamas people, they're just going to keep blowing things up. So we're going to see if the political pressure that is brought to bear on those guys is going to be enough and what this looks like, because they're certainly alienating a lot of people. They are dividing sentiment, but they don't show any signs of backing off. So we're going to find out. All right. Russia claims that crypto is just the U.S.'s plan to export more inflation. That's the very design of crypto. Now, they're wrong about that, but they are very right about the fact that the U.S. is using crypto, stablecoins very specifically, as a way to re-engage the world with buying our debt so that they can export inflation. And they are certainly going to do that. But we'll look at the clip specifically of Russia making their claims. One thing, just as a PSA, I would like to point out, I hope you guys are watching the deep dives, because one thing that you're going to hear me talk about over and over and over, the U.S. is going to print money until they break the currency. Your only hope is that AI ushers in an era of so much productivity that we can grow our way out of this. But I put the odds of that very low. So I think that this is going to be, we'll be able to forestall the inevitable, but the inevitable will eventually happen. So invest accordingly. All right, I don't know if you guys saw it, but PBD was on Jubilee. This was capitalists versus anti-capitalists. I don't think the debate was great, but it was a very useful insight into some seriously unhinged things coming from young people about capitalism, socialism, communism. It is wild. I don't know why, but apparently we all have to touch that hot stove every few generations. So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. Certainly when somebody points out that our current system is broken, they are correct. When they see that as a fundamental flaw in capitalism, I think that they are out of their minds. But speaking of being out of your mind, MIT, an MIT tech company, I should say, has made mental telepathy real. It's insane. You guys have to see this. You're not going to want to miss it. And this is wave 1 of the technology. This is only going to get better. And speaking of AI getting better, an AI film studio backed by OpenAI is set to launch their first animated feature in 2026. And this is the early innings. things are already leaping forward at an insane pace. The film is going to be made in 9 months versus the usual 3 years that it takes to make an animated film. This is exactly how AI should be used, in my opinion, and we're going to look closely at what's going on, how you guys can take advantage of it. Okay, Drew, here it is. The world did not stop while I was gone. No, believe it or not.
Trump almost died, allegedly, if you let Twitter tell it. There were so many ups and downs.
I really thought he was going to go.
Yeah, it was looking bad. People were celebrating. There were so many celebrations and dancing on graves. Oof. But all he came back with was a discolored hand. All right, we got to talk about this race war. Twitter, man, it's happening. Race war 2025. First, they gave us Daniel Penny. Then they gave us the lady at the park. And now we have random train violence. So I'm very apprehensive of showing the video itself. I'm going to link to Alexis Jones's X.
Don't show.
I'm not playing it.
Thing.
But if you guys want to see the full thing, he has a full 4-minute version, the before, the after, and then the people coming over and helping her eventually.
Yeah, that one is a watch at your own risk.
Yeah,
I've seen enough videos now of people that transition from alive to dead. It does something weird to my brain. I do not enjoy it. So watch that one at your own risk. It will stay with you for a while. But for people that don't know the setup, woman gets on a train, sits down in front of somebody who unfortunately, as we get the facts, has schizophrenia. His own mother said, please do not release him from prison. He will hurt. I don't know if she said the word kill, but I guess he beat his own sister brutally. And so the mom had been advocating for him to stay in prison. He's been arrested 14 times. I don't know if he's convicted of felonies every time he was arrested or not, but back out on the streets, and he just stabs her. There's no interaction between the two of them whatsoever. Now, what X would like you to believe is the real lead is that she's white and he's black. That's so crazy to me that when you think about from first principles, if your level of analysis is solely that this is about race, I cannot track how you parse the world. If you were going to solve this and you said, hey, how do we stop this guy from killing anybody? Let's evaporate racism. Will he not kill anybody? I would say he may not kill that person because he may have some other algorithm running in his brain, but this is somebody with schizophrenia. He's got voices telling him that he needs to do a thing. And so he beat his sister. I have zero reason to believe that that was race motivated. This is a guy who, if you were to solve for one problem, that would dramatically reduce the likelihood that he kills somebody. It would be to solve his schizophrenia. So yes, once you have someone who is a literal madman, they're going to have an algorithm running in their brain. And this algorithm it seems to be because he says when he kills her, I got that white girl, I got that white girl. But he's schizophrenic. That's the problem from where I'm sitting. So there was the Son of Sam guy that was like, the dog told me I had to kill people. So it's like schizophrenics are going to kill. That would be not all schizophrenics. But when they kill, they're going to play some tape in their brain. It was something that pushed them forward. So I'm not saying that race doesn't play into this, but I am saying if you're going to focus on a problem, race is not the level of analysis when the person has schizophrenia.
It's been interesting to see the responses from this because I think that this has been used as a lot of people's almost litmus test of saying, see, this is why insert a bunch of racist scientists not backed by science claims. Benny Johnson came out with a whole thread of it's because he doesn't have a father. That's why he killed her on the train.
This is what I'm talking about. There are probably 100 examples you could give where it's like, okay, this person does not know how to emotionally regulate themselves. They did not develop any discipline. They ended up growing up on the streets where to earn respect and to thrive, you had to cultivate your willingness to be violent. And so all of those things are going to shape your brain development. So yeah, point to those and say, okay, you have a problem where you do not have a person in the household that's able to draw aggressive boundaries, that's able to be a imposing physical force, an imposing force from a disciplinary standpoint to say, these are the things that are acceptable, these are the things that are not acceptable. Great. If you want to have that conversation, I'm not saying that's not a worthy conversation to have, but when the person doing the attack is schizophrenic And nobody's talking about that. That's like multiples of absurd higher to me than when nobody's talking about the race. Sure, get into the race part, get into why somebody with schizophrenia would be running an algorithm about race, fine. But if that's where you start, that's patently absurd.
And there's been a lot of comments in the chat already about like, well, why isn't the media talking about it? You are the media. You guys are the media. Elon Musk retweeted it. Every right-wing conservative is talking about it. Fox News did a whole segment on it. CNN had a panel on it. So this is my thing, right? Because I think Elon said if this was a black man, if this was a black girl getting killed by a white man, people would have rioted already. And it was like, yeah, black people probably would have turned up for it. So if white people, you feel this enraged about what happened on the train, go outside, go walk, go riot. But it seems like you want other people to get as mad as you feel right now. And that's the part that I'm thinking we're just getting caught in, like, what are we actually talking about? Yes, we should be. This is a criminal justice problem. Yes, he shouldn't have been out. Yes, he's violent crime. Yes, it's not okay to stab white people on the train. Like, I know things that I think I don't have to say out loud. I feel like I now have to say out loud.
You have to say them out loud right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But go ahead, sorry.
No, but then but on the flip side, it's like, yes, this is bad. We need to, we should be mad about it. Yet you guys are mad about it. You're tweeting about it. You're people are talking about it, but I think they want New York Times to release a full page 4-part article about it. And it's just like, why do you need that to validate that this is wrong, this is bad, all these other things? So I don't understand that lack of the media isn't doing it for me when the theme of the world since 2020 is the media doesn't tell you the full story of anything. So
yes, that's a really good point. Yeah. And what I think we're witnessing is people are coming face to face. So I've talked a lot about volume and velocity of information. Mm-hmm. So we live in an era where this is the whole James Burnham argument is you are always going to have elites. The elites are always going to try and control the narrative. But we are now living in a social media era where you can't control the narrative. It's going to come at you from every direction. And so now everybody's going to put their narrative forward. And what you see people pushing back against is they're seeing in real time that the New York Times is a narrative control machine, and they're struggling with that. And you'll see even like when we assess to do a deep dive, we'll look at, okay, we know these 3 to 5 things would pop. But then I have to look at them and go, but which ones do I actually believe are true? Because to write a video that I know will do well, but I don't actually believe it, for me, as somebody whose like number one priority in life is to earn my own respect, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do something that I don't believe is true, but I know it would perform well because it speaks to an emotion that people are in. Once you understand that the people tribe up in a populist moment, they are in their feelings. Yeah. Once you understand, oh, they're in their feelings, they're going to tell a narrative, partly because they're trapped in their own frame of reference. So it's what they believe, it's what they want to see. And they understand, because they are intelligent, they understand the potency of controlling a narrative, of constructing and controlling a narrative. And once you understand that there's so much efficacy to controlling a narrative, that if you can control a narrative well, you can sway society, then you understand, oh, for whatever reason, they're morally gray or however you want to think about it, or they feel so righteous that this idea is so important, or it's so self-serving, whichever bucket you want to put them in, that I need to control the narrative and I need to say the thing. So of course, on both sides, whether you're Benny Johnson or whether you're the New York Times, like you're going to cover it in one specific way. Watch how people cover the thing that supposedly is bad on their team to figure out, like, what are they optimizing for? Are they optimizing for team support? Or are they optimizing for, they have an internal locus of like, this is what I believe to be true, and so I'm going to push for this thing? Are they fair-minded and they're always trying to connect with the physics of the situation? They're trying to think of first principles. Like, watch how they build the bricks. The vast majority of anybody in front of a camera, they are building up from a team sport mentality. This is what my team believes. This is how I keep my tribe happy, and I'm going to do this thing. And this is why I would highly encourage people, even if you have a violent negative reaction to him, Sam Harris is not playing team sports. He will occasionally align with a team, and he will occasionally say things that I think are like properly unhinged, but I don't think he ever says something that he doesn't actually believe. So you need to find people like that who will say something they believe when it's hyper unpopular. So you can at least touch base. You're not always going to agree with them, but you can touch base with them. You can figure out what the building blocks are that they're constructing their worldview from. And that is where this gets interesting. But the collision that we're seeing right now is people are ideologically driven. They want the other side to admit that they're wrong because this is a team sport. They want to score points by saying, see, do a search on the New York Times, and they mention George Floyd 862,000 times, and they mention the Ukrainian woman 0 times. And for them, that's like a big gotcha. That is the setup. So New York Times isn't going to suddenly be like, oh, actually, we're fair and impartial. So yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to get the average person to accept that everybody's just trying to control a narrative. I don't even know if we need to. But if you don't want to drive yourself crazy, don't waste any time. Everybody is spinning a narrative, period.
Yeah. I want to talk about this Overton window shift because right now there's been a tweet that's been circling from, it starts with Stag Wyatt. He says, white people have a simple choice to make. 1, be conquered, enslaved, raped, and genocided while being called racist. 2, reclaim our nations and our dignity while being called racist. It's that simple. American Patriot account retweeted it. The 2 options are clear. And Elon Musk retweeted it, yes. So for me, this is, I think, the bigger, I don't want to say concern, but do you think that this is something that can start a movement that might be letting it go away?
And start a movement that might be letting.
And I'm gonna kind of tag this with the JD Vance tweet about, like, I don't care if, as long as it's a drug cartel, I don't care what the military does, they could just bomb a boat. But that cuts out due process. Like, there's this thing where sometimes we want justice and we give up our freedoms. We might turn anarchy. We might turn revolution.
Okay, it's so important.
Yeah.
I want to stay with racism for a minute.
Okay.
And then we can get to how that dovetails into the JD Vance thing. Yeah. But just to like take one issue at a time, because I worry these things start to conflate so fast that the just amount of things that people have to parse through becomes impossible to formulate an opinion.
Copy.
So staying with race, what I think is happening is racism is obviously a real phenomenon. It's what I call school of fish. For whatever reason, all salmon hang out with salmon, and maybe it's just as simple as mating. I don't know. But anyway, all salmon hang with salmon, all trout hang with trout, right? You just people group up in schools of fish. Yeah. So humans will cue off of visual cues that you're part of my tribe. And so given from an evolutionary perspective, being able to thin slice somebody very rapidly as either in-group or out-group would be incredibly important. So skin color is just this screaming alarm bell that this person is not in-group, out-group. Mm-hmm. Religion comes along, which would have been, just so late in human evolution. But from our perspective, it feels like it's been here forever. Mm-hmm. But in reality, that's going to come along pretty late. You're starting to be Homo sapiens at that point. So religion allows you to convey a value system very rapidly through symbology. So I can wear a cross, you see my cross, and now all of a sudden it's like, I don't care that he's white or I don't care that he's black. We have the same symbol. We believe in the same God. So I've just imparted a value system to say you're in tribe, not out tribe, even though there's this visual representation that would otherwise make us believe. Okay, so we have been living through this incredibly bizarre moment that did not start in 2020, but that was such a flashpoint that we can sort of pick up the conversation with BLM, George Floyd.
And everybody was at home watching TV. So,
which exacerbated everything 1,000-fold. So now you've got this, to your point about the Overton window beginning to shift. At first it was, you're a racist if you say anything like, wait, hold on a second, I don't see anything in him in the interaction between Derek Chauvin and George Floyd that makes me think this is specifically race related. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's white. Yes, he's black. But does he say words to that effect? So anyway, that would get shut down immediately. And I remember George Floyd was my awakening to that there was something going on. And I ended up spending 3 hours trying to come up with a 15-second post on it. Cause I was it felt so dangerous. And now what I see happening is people for so long were canceled, debanked, deplatformed. It just became impossible to say the things that you thought were true. And so it started pushing people down this more radical path of being angry, being frustrated that they couldn't talk about it. Mm-hmm. So That created a necessity to move the Overton window, because when you're not allowed to speak, you're not allowed to think, you're not allowed to put your ideas out there and get the feedback. Also, just articulating an idea out loud forces you to realize, oh, wait a second, the emotions that make me think I understand this well, as soon as I have to say the words, I realize I can't say the words. I don't understand this as well as I thought I did. And so that all begins to break down. So people have this impetus to say, no, I need to talk about this. I need to be able to hear other people that are talking about this. I need to be able to present my ideas and get the feedback. And so they pushed so hard. And now what we're seeing is like this massive pendulum swing where you get the Matt Walshes of the world who are like, no, this is pure race and we just need to be able to talk about it. Nick Fuentes, pure race, we just need to be able to talk about it. And that, to me, again, I think is the wrong level of analysis. I think that this is about value system, and religion, to me, is the very thing that proves this is about values and not about anything else. And that you can, if you have a larger value system like religion, it will unite people of different ethnicities, no problem. But we do need that rapid way to communicate value system. In a social media age where you see something like this, it just becomes like the most common denominator, basic thing that everybody understands intuitively, which is race. And so that's why I'm saying the problem here is that the level of analysis is wrong. So race is a part of what's happening, for sure, but it's really a values problem. And if we can't move people out of the mindset of race down into the mindset of values, you'll never be able to solve the problem, because you'll be up here trying to steer things based on commentary about race, and then the problem doesn't solve.
So let's break that down from a value system. Let's kind of go, because from the race level, it's black versus white. This black man is bad. 1 out of 22% of black men, all this other stuff, and this precious white woman who's attacked by a monster. And then you go to that. So if we're at the second level of value system, what are the clashes from that perspective?
Okay, so the easiest one, because I think there's the most data on this, is the importance of men in a family unit. And once you create policies that erode the social pressure for men to remain in a relationship, to have responsibility for their family, what ends up happening is, and it's really twofold. So you create an economic incentive to remove men from the household. Then you have the social aspect of what men do is toxic, and that they're really blank slates anyway. And so we should they wouldn't use the words feminized, but like, it is feminization. So we should be feminizing men. We shouldn't be having them pull their kids up short. We shouldn't be having them, waking their kids. Like, if you know, Bedros Keuilian runs this whole fathers and sons camp where like it's basically militaristic. And so they're waking these kids up early, making them do hard things, crawl through the mud, like deal with freezing weather, all this stuff. And people are like, I don't want that. And so you've got this, the removal of males and then the feminization of males. And that, from where I'm sitting, stems from a confusion about men and women being the same. Men and women are different. They are evolutionary answers to very different questions. And women are the sexual gatekeepers. So men, from an evolutionary perspective, are the answer to what do women need to effectively, safely have children. And so they've made us bigger, they've made us stronger, they've made us hyper ambitious, they've made us super responsive to sexual manipulation is encouragement. I always want to use a more positive word, but it's just so much easier to, like, once you understand.
Manipulation.
Women help you be a better man by denying you access to sex. And so it's been this incredible partnership that we've worked out. But all of that now has just imploded. So the social setup that we have now is asking and answering the question, what happens to society when you feminize men and just remove them from the child rearing equation? And the answer is, it's bad. And children do not regulate their emotions. And the bad news is, when a man does not regulate his emotions, when he does not learn how to do that as a kid, then some of them will break violent. And men are hard to stop because we have turned them into these hyper-aggressive, we being sexual evolution, hyper-aggressive, physically stronger, much more likely to take risks, half of the species. and now you're seeing it run amok.
And then the last part of this piece, I do want to get to the community. I see you guys popping off. We're definitely going to take some of your comments. But Matt Walsh made an argument, and we don't necessarily need to play the video, but his point now is with something like this happening, he wants to bring back rope hanging. I want somebody hanging from a rope 24 hours later. Donald Trump and what he's doing with the National Guard, trying to put a more pressure on law and order. Should this be a wake-up call to capital punishment? Should this be a wake-up call to how we litigate some of these cases? Do you think that there should be a natural cause that like maybe violent criminals shouldn't be released? We should bring back 3 strikes. Do you think that there should be some type of criminal justice reform piece at the end of something like this?
So again, level of analysis. One, yes, you're going to need to do that because you cannot, if you don't have a society that's safe, that society is going to spend an inordinate amount of their time just mental and emotional resources like trying to protect. And we're living in a populist moment. We're watching what it looks like economically when you protect yourself. It's very different than when you have high trust, cooperation. You get a lot more done. You can advance a lot faster.
Yeah.
And so now you'll get that at the individual level where it's all protectionist. So I think that's bad. So you do need to do something to address that because we are in the situation that we're in right now. So yeah, you need to do something to stop violent crime, but that's treating the symptom. It's not treating the cause. So when I hear that somebody's on a GLP-1 inhibitor, when I hear that somebody's taking metformin because they can't manage their glucose, I'm just like, hey, fucknut, like this is 100% a diet problem. This is not like mostly a diet problem. This is 100% a diet problem. So what we have is a raise your children well problem. Now, you're never going to get that to 100%, just life is too complicated, but you've got to address that. You've got to put the structural things in place, both from a financial incentive perspective from the government and from a social pressure perspective to get people, like, one, we want people to have kids, but we want them to raise them well. We need both a female and a male influence to raise kids in a well-balanced way where they're getting all of the things that they need. So we've got to focus on that. Otherwise, you're just always giving people GLP-1 inhibitors instead of
putting Band-Aids on the problem.
Yeah, like you've got to stop the problem where it starts, and that's with how you raise kids.
Yeah. Okay, you guys are bubbling up in the chat. Mason, I hope you've been pulling some stuff because they are feeling the type of way.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing is when you went into the feminine part, so one comment says, so the train attack breaks down at the value system of saying an aggressive, violent murder was too feminine. Like, I don't think people are really tracking.
No. So, okay, this is where I love you guys, but please remember the very first thing that I said was the dealing with the mental illness is the biggest problem here. Everything else cascades after that. This is a person with schizophrenia. They are mentally ill. Their brain is broken. They are not going to be able to function in society. There was going to be an algorithm running in this guy's brain based on his schizophrenia. It could have been the dog told me to do it. That's a real story. If you know the Son of Sam thing, it could be that. It could be, in his case, like, oh my God, we got to stop these white people. But the schizophrenia is the problem. So when people are schizophrenic, you should be able to forcefully remove them from society. And that is horrible. And I'm very sad that this is real, but that kind of thing is real. And so you need some sort of system where you don't just close all the mental hospitals and push people out on the street. That was a disaster. We never should have done it. We're going to have to reverse that. And yes, it is a terrifying thought that somebody could put you in prison. And then the more you try to protest and say, look, I'm perfectly fine, the crazier you seem. If you've ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's a phenomenal example of what it looks like when, like, you're maybe on the bubble, but ultimately you're fine, and how you can get trapped inside the system. So I'm well aware of that. But the choice we made to just be like, well, we got to let them all go, that's the wrong play. So I'm saying you have two issues happening with this attack. You have a guy with schizophrenia who then has an algorithm running in his brain about racism. So racism gives him the excuse to kill, but I have a feeling that he would not have killed if he wasn't schizophrenic. So that, to me, when you talk about level of analysis, start with what's the one that's the bigger contributing factor. To me, it is self-evident, given the randomness of this attack, that schizophrenia played a bigger part in this, which is why he had been violent so many times before, which is why his mother supposedly, I did not hear this from her directly, but supposedly went to the court system and said, don't let him out. He's going to hurt somebody. I doubt that was based on him freaking out about race. I have a feeling it's just because he's schizophrenic.
I don't mean to jump ship, but somebody said in the comments, how do you feel about the other people not helping? And I've seen a couple of tweets about that too. Vero Smitty says, are the other men who didn't jump in, are they the feminized men that maybe you're talking about? That
the feminized men thing, we need to separate, because I'm talking about that as like, if you're going to raise children well. So if they're mentally ill, they're mentally ill, and raising children well is not going to help you. You could raise somebody perfectly, and if they have schizophrenia, their life is going to be brutal. They are not living in the same universe that we are living in, okay? They hear voices in their head telling them to do things. And if that were happening to you all the time, and you can't tell what's real, anyway, my heart absolutely bleeds for anybody that has to go through that, but you still have to lock them up. You have to get them the hell off the streets. Okay, feminized men is a totally different scenario that has to do with how we're raising children well. Now, is that part of what's playing out with men not stepping up? Yes, absolutely. Can you imagine if we teleported somebody from Sparta and put them on that train, they would fucking beat the life
Kick him in the
out of this. Bro, they would beat the life out of this guy. But we have to ask, is that the kind of society that we want to live in? This is not me saying that Sparta is better. I think Sparta had all kinds of problems that like goes way too far. But it shows on a spectrum that if somebody were raised in that kind of environment where it's like, hey, guess what you do? You fucking protect. Guess what? You're dying in service of like protecting other people. Fuck yeah. No problem. You're a hero if you do that. You will get more of what you celebrate. So, for sure. Again, this is not me saying raise men like they were raised in Sparta. I am not saying that. I'm just saying I hope it illustrates the point that if you raise men to be physically tough, to be able to diffuse situations like that, that they will step in. Whether it's Daniel Penny or somebody who, man, do I hesitate to use this person's name because I think that they have grown very frustrated with some of my public positions. So forgive me. But there's a guy, Faraz Sahabi, who I interviewed back in the day at Inside Quest. He trained George St. Pierre in mixed martial arts. Incredible guy. Whether he likes me anymore or not is irrelevant to me. He said something to me in my interview that I thought was really powerful because he can fight. And he said, Tom, part of the reason that I learned to fight was I wanted, if I were going to be kind in a situation, I wanted the kindness to be a choice and not my only option because I didn't know how to defend myself. So if you had a train full of Faraz Sahabi, George St. Pierre, like that guy's not going to get very far. So yeah, you have a bunch of people that are understandably scared to fucking death. This guy just stabbed this woman. He, I assume, is still holding the knife. But I would not respect myself, let's say that, if that's how I responded. If I was just on the train, like, well, bummer for her, that would literally haunt me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make any big, bold claims about what I would do in that situation. I'm sure it is absolutely terrifying, but I would lose respect for myself if I did not do something.
Ooh, a really crazy situation. I feel like that's why watching videos, I think sometimes you get this Monday morning quarterbacking of it all. Like, well, if I was there, I would have jumped up. How many people were during the 9/11 release were like, yeah, if I was on that plane, we would have went that. Like, yes, everybody's a superhero until they're in that situation. Right. So by no means am I going to poo-poo those guys because when you're in a train, half the time you're just putting your eyes focused and you just need to get to your destination. You're trying to make it home to your family. You're not trying to intervene in anybody else's anything. So I don't want to seem like it's the people in the train's fault and not the actual murderer who did the murdering. Like
1,000%. But I do think all of us, especially men, need to ask themselves, okay, I'm there. What would I need to do to earn my own respect? Mm-hmm. You don't want to think of that for the first time when you're in that situation. Yeah. And so I know for me, at a minimum, I've got to be willing to rush to that woman's aid to try to stop her from bleeding out. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm not putting the guy in a chokehold and risking getting stabbed to death myself, but 100%, like to just let her crumple onto the floor, like hard pass.
Yeah. Please watch like the full video because
if you can bear it, it's rough.
Yeah, it's rough. But that's the one thing when I seen the initial impact, I'll call it. It's not like the movies where it's like Quentin Tarantino movie and blood is gushing from her neck, and everybody's like, "Oh snap!" She even looks startled, is looking around, and kind of shrinks in the ball.
That's what's weird. Like at first, she does not realize that she's been killed yet.
Yeah.
She just seems like, why'd you hit me?
She's still clutching her phone. She's looking around. So there's still that cognizant. So if I was somebody in the back of the train, I'm seeing her head move. I'm not seeing. They're not red stains in her hair. I'm like, oh, she probably got startled and spooked, and he did something weird. It's over now. I'm good.
Agreed.
So that is the one thing, just to.
But like when she crumbles to the floor, that's when it's like, yeah. Okay, so
are you okay? Somebody could have checked in.
Correct. 100%. Super wild.
So yeah, I guess there's a lot of reactions about what we should do, how we should change the criminal justice system, and then again, Trump even had a video talking about condemning violent crime. What do you think the actual second order consequence of this will be? Because you let Nick Fuentes tell it, move away from the blacks. You let Scott Adams tell it.
Race is really becoming a problem. Like this is wild. Now, again, some of this it starts online, but what online does is it gives people the narrative. And part of what I'm trying to do, because I will routinely get criticism from people that encountered me in phase 1 when all I talked about was empowerment, who are like, yo, you fell off. Like, I really miss when all you did was put out empowerment. My response to that is the message has to meet the moment. Otherwise, you're just making noise. And we are in a moment now where we have a cultural problem, and we are now dealing with the consequences of all the things that come downstream of culture from bad policy. I have a firm belief that when you have the wrong policies, your culture will ultimately fall, and that falling has, call it roughly 100 years of horrifying consequences. So I'm trying to stop us from going down that path. And so when I look at what's happening with race is ratcheting up. I'm trying to give people a narrative, and it is a narrative, trying to make it as true as possible. But every time you choose a word, you're picking a narrative. But I'm trying to give people a narrative that will lead them to first principles, that will allow them to build up from that will hopefully stop them from sliding onto a team, stop them from being ideological, get them to define their own value system, not necessarily mimic mine, but to have a value system that they can articulate such that they would be able to respond in a moment like that because they know what they expect of themselves. So when I watch race ratcheting it up, and I hear somebody like Nick Fuentes or I hear somebody like Scott Adams, that putting that narrative out there is only going to further exacerbate the problem. So I don't like those narratives as when I look at their utility of what it's going to do, because we are a multicultural society, period, end of story, have been since our founding. So it won't play out well for us. The Chinese can do it. They can kick everybody out if they think that there's any sort of detriment to their cultural integrity. But that's not America, man. That wasn't the gamble that we made. And we become the most effective country on planet Earth because of our geography. Let's not get it twisted about that. That's a huge part of it. But then also because we over-optimize for freedom over everything else. And so that's created this incredible thing. But we are a multicultural society. And if we don't let the people in that multicultural society say the things that they believe to be true, you have a problem. But if we then tear ourselves apart because everybody is screaming that this is all about race, again, wrong level of analysis, despite the fact that there is truth, but it's speeding up, man. That's like the race as it felt in the 80s was like, yo, this used to really be a problem. We've got to do everything we can to make it not a problem. And now it's like, hey, this is really a problem, and we've got to call as much attention to it as humanly possible from every angle, and that's just going to make it worse.
America is going to have to deal with its problems one way or another, and I think it's just bubbling over. So we will monitor. We'll see what happens. And
I'm going to make one last point as a direct appeal to everybody here. Get out of your emotions. Get out of your emotions. And anytime you see somebody locked in their emotions and they are reasoning from a place of emotion, eject. First of all, you're not going to be able to convince them of anything. Remember that emotions make dots feel like they connect that don't actually connect. Meaning, when they're looking at the race of it all, it feels right. Yeah. I see a black man. He is killing a white woman. He said the words. I got that white woman. So it's like, yeah. Like, this is our problem, race. once you try to build up from first principles, you then have to contend with, well, hold on a second. He had schizophrenia. What is more likely to have played a bigger role in his decision-making process? Racism or schizophrenia? And I think you'll see that schizophrenia comes first and everything else cascades down from that. So then it's like, oh, okay, cool. I have a solution set now that's being informed by the facts on the ground. That's where you want to get, not what my emotions feel, not what other people's emotions are telling them, not how eloquent they are in making a case, but when you think from first principles and you build your case up from physics, where do you end up? So be careful, because what's happening online is all emotion all the time.
There was one comment that said, Theo Savage, that said, so if he claimed he did it because of aliens, we think it's an alien problem? Going back to like, he said I got that white woman, it's a like racist problem. That was just a funny dichotomy. But yeah, I don't think this is getting better. I think this is getting worse. And again, I love the sentiment behind it. And I think that it's noble. And
what's the sentiment? What do you mean?
I remember you said the Morgan Freeman line, if we just stop talking about race, it will go away. And I'm going to continue to say, like, this is a problem we can't sweep under the rug, because we tried to sweep it under the rug. We tried to legislate it. We tried to out racism. All the ways that we're trying to deal with it, I feel like it hasn't gone away yet. So until we have a honest conversation, until we try to actually think of ways to, I don't want to say rectify, because I don't even know which way is what the North Star is anymore, especially in a moment like this. But I do feel like having the conversation will need to happen. And unless we're going to keep going through these cycles of white kills black, look at this, black kills white, look at this. And we just kind of keep swinging that pendulum back and forth.
Yeah. All of history tells you that's exactly what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So there is the only thing that you can do is, if on a long enough timeline, the races sort of intermingle, which that's going to trigger some people. But if you do that and you sort of get the gray man, that's one option. The other option is people retreat back to their nation states and you just do it based on ethnicity, but that's going to have its own problems. Otherwise, you will collide, and then that will be painful enough that people go, okay, this isn't working. We have to do something else. A new narrative will take its place. So yeah, otherwise you're just gonna, in times of economic trouble, people will collide along racial lines because it's easy to see.
Shout out to our Twitch family. I see the bits. Thank you, Dino.
Oh, we got some biddies going over there on Twitch. Let's go.
Okay, so in this populist moment, this is my transition to the JD.
Okay, really fast though. Mason, have we got it all?
You guys have hit all the main points from the chat. You've gone back to some things I pulled previously, but we do have a super chat.
Let's go.
So from Pablo Correa, have you guys talked about Oracle yet? Stock is booming. Larry is going to maybe pass Elon as number one, and this points to a continued bullish outlook on AI.
Interesting. I haven't looked into Oracle. I've not heard anything about what they're doing other than being a part of the big AI infrastructure project in the US. I don't know what's causing the uptick in the stock, but that's certainly worth looking at. If Larry Ellison is making a run to somehow surpass Elon, that would be shocking. But yeah, I'd have to look into it. Obviously, it's going to be tied to AI. So the only question is he a part of the AI bubble, which we are almost certainly in, or is he really like something so foundational that he's going to be one of the players that wins? That I don't know, but very worth looking at for sure.
And then we also had a couple people asking if you got LASIK because you don't have your glasses.
No, I just didn't want to wake my wife up. So everything is still packed. And so this morning I was like, oh, God damn it. I forgot to grab them. So we are where we are. But my eyesight's really getting bad now. And I've had to steal my wife's glasses so many times. And I actually thought about wearing her glasses this morning. And I thought, no, it's way too feminine. So I do need to go to the doctor, though. We gotta update that prescription. I learned that lesson very fast over the vacation. Life is a lot better with a new pair of glasses. So
nice. Okay, I remember there was that quote, if you trade your freedom for peace, you don't have both, or something. Safety. When you trade freedom for safety, you end up not with both of them. In this moment with the attack on the train to now the Venezuelan bombing. So for those catching up on this, there was a drone attack on a boat running drugs leaving Venezuela. Trump praised it, took responsibility for the attack. They're saying that there were 11 cartel members on board, and this is why it was done. JD Vance then goes and says, like, I'm proud of this moment. I'm glad that this happened. Yada, yada, yada. He got a lot of backlash, including some from Rand Paul, the senator. And it kind of goes into that notion of we're losing, especially with the Kilmar Garcia, we're losing due process. Now we're advocating for people who we suspect as cartel members to be killed instantly with no due process, no fair trial. Are we getting on that slippery slope where we're starting to give up certain freedoms?
On? Dude, countries live on that slippery slope. So this is one of those where the Jessipification, as Eric Weinstein called it, of America is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. But the reality is we have always had men standing on the wall that were willing to do things that if you knew about all of it, you would be disgusted. And yet, given that other countries are constantly trying to do that to us, it just is the reality. And I think this is why some of my take on Israel befuddles people, angers other people, is I'm looking at it and I'm going, that's just what total war is. So we've had God knows how many millennia of total war. And now all of a sudden, because of modern society, because we like to think that we're past that we're somehow at the end of evolution, all that, we're not. We are animals that kill people that fuck with us. That's what we do. And so we're watching that play out. And for 70 years, people kept it sort of in check. And now it's just breaking free again. You've got Putin invading Ukraine for a whole host of reasons. You've got Israel, a very complex set of reasons that include allowing them to amass stuff, amass the terror tunnels, to amass weaponry, to radicalize as many people as possible, knowing that they could do that because you have the belief that you can control the size of the flame. They then attack and you're like, oh shit, like maybe they let them attack, maybe they didn't, but they're just taking advantage of it. But it's like, whatever. And now they're going to go all the way. And they show absolutely no signs of like stopping until they get all the hostages back and Hamas is completely eradicated. They are bombing sovereign nations now because they think that there's Hamas like in those. Yeah. And I look at that and I'm like, is it evil? Yes. Do humans do evil shit all the time? Yes. Was what Hamas did evil? Yes. Is the way that Hamas runs the country evil? Yes. So looking at all of this, it's just evil, left, right, center, up, down, B, A, select, start. So I'm not embracing any of it. I'm deeply saddened by all of it, but it is. And so when I look at what we're doing, you have to, in terms of bombing that boat, you've got to, one, if there are people running drugs into your country, you tell them to knock it the fuck off and they don't. And if we knew for certain that those people have drugs, that they are a part of a narco-terrorist state and they are trying to get those drugs in and you have given them warning and they keep going, yes. Shoot, blow them up, make it real fucking clear what we do and don't tolerate. If it ends up that those are just like fishermen out on a boat, then you're the asshole. And you've clearly gotten like out of hand and you've got to rein that shit in. And I have no idea what the facts on the ground are going to be. But the only thing I can tell you is on a long enough timeline, you get a bunch of shit wrong and it's really fucking ugly. And you've got to be careful. But the one thing that you can't do is not defend yourselves. And so I am a big proponent of walk softly and carry a big stick, the very famous Theodore Roosevelt quote. If you have not read about Theodore Roosevelt, read about him. He was a hardcore motherfucker. This guy did not play, but he made very clear the only reason that you can talk softly is because you carry a big stick. And I think that the reason that people are so unwilling to back America's lethality, being aggressive, all of that stuff, is because things have gone too good for too long and we don't realize what it takes to actually protect a country. So, yeah, I look at that and I say the specifics are going to matter a lot. I'll need to know what actually happened. But at the level of like, let's make it a thought exercise. If those guys really are Venezuelan cartel members running drugs into America, fuck them up hard.
I get that. And I understand that there's the nuanced take is the right take. So once we have all the information, it's easy to make that. But if I had to put like gun to your head, bomb or no bomb, drone or no drone, are you leaning toward the side of I'd rather blow it up and ask questions later, or should we have a more?
No, you have to ask questions first. We cannot become that country.
Yeah.
You've got to be very careful. But I really believe that we should be putting the money into the intelligence to make sure that we can figure out who's who and what's what, that there is an acceptable collateral damage. And yes, if it was me or my wife or my kids, they got killed and were part of the collateral damage, that'd be very cold comfort. I understand that. And everybody needs to fight for the position that they're in, which is why you allow for freedom of speech so that people can push back so we can figure out where the right balance is. But yes, I believe that America needs to be aggressive in its protection in itself. I believe that America needs to be aggressive in wanting to win. I think America needs to play to win. So you've got to do your due diligence. You 100% should not fire first and ask questions later. You should absolutely be asking questions first, making sure that you're as sure as you can be that something is right. You need to back off if you've got a certain level of uncertainty, but you're never going to have perfect information. But if your win ratio is high, then yeah, like if we're 95% accurate, can I live with that last 5%? Yes. If we can push that even farther, would I be happier? Of course I would.
Yeah. Okay, that's valid. Brandon Gibson said, Drew, you don't think they had any intel? I don't think it's an intel question. My question kind of goes back to the Patriot Act. Once somebody's classified as a terrorist, all their rights are now thrown out the window. The cartel is now slowly moving into that, and I'm just trying to ask should we treat drug busts the same way we treat 9/11 attackers? And if everybody's saying, yes, it's cool. If you're in a cartel, you deserve no rights. You deserve to get bombed into oblivion. Okay. But I don't necessarily think, you know what I mean, that if it goes from terrorists to then drugs, how soon is it going to be murderers, really big shoplifters, and then before you know it, anybody who commits any crime now can get executed, judge, jury, you know?
For sure. And if we were to go that far, we'd be a bunch of morons that history should just be ruthless in their judgment of us.
We live on the slippery slope. So
100%. But what you can't do, and this is like Jordan Peterson has a really powerful idea with raising kids about minimum force necessary. So you always want things to be minimum force necessary. But you need to do the necessary force. And if that means grabbing your kid by the arm and dragging them out of that situation, then grab your kid by the arm and you drag them out of that situation. Look, my mom swatted me. I can't even imagine how many times with a wooden spoon. And I did not grow up traumatized. She kept me on the straight and narrow. I have emotional control. And if people want to look at the results, I've been very successful in business, partly because my mother helped me develop discipline, largely because she helped me develop emotional control. My marriage has been successful for the same reasons. So it's like those things work. Now, my mom, I don't think ever spanked my sister because my sister did not need that. So she read the situation well. Both my sister and I have grown up well adjusted. So it's like, yeah, I think if you have the idea of minimum force required, but you are willing to do what is required, then you're pointed in the right direction. You cannot be letting mentally ill people out on the streets. That you've gone like just full moron at that point. So yeah, if you're violent, you need to be locked up. I would encourage people to think of us as automata. So if you realize that, by the time somebody gets to an adult, so much of who they are is going to be baked, they could change, but they won't. Just the vast majority of people don't change. So even though it is possible, it is ridiculously difficult to escape your own frame of reference. So people get tied into it. If they're mentally ill, they're going to need to be medicated. You have a physiological problem. Now, that physiological problem can also be exacerbated by their thought patterns, but you have a physical problem. You need to address the physical problem. So if people stop, like the judge that let the guy out that stabbed the Ukrainian woman, she said he made me a promise that he was going to stop being violent. Like, what? Like, come on.
I promise you, Anna, I'll never murder another person again.
That is wild.
Stab.
That
Crazy.
is wild. So that's where it's like, okay, you're just completely detached from reality. And so it's interesting because the person that wrote the definitive book on us being automata is a guy named Robert Sapolsky. It's called Determined. I highly recommend people read that book. Extraordinary book. And in it, he makes it, there's, as far as I can tell, there's just nowhere left to attack him. I mean, he covers everything, including quantum physics, which people always go to. But he handles it all. Now, he and I come to a very different final conclusion, where for him, it's like all empathy all the time. And it's like, he's saying basically, I didn't earn my intelligence. I didn't earn my discipline. I didn't earn my emotional control. And while all of that's true, nonetheless, if somebody's a danger, you got to get them off the street. Now, he admits that he comes to that same conclusion, but he's far more in like you've got to be kind, you've got to be compassionate. And it's like, you've got to be effective. That would be my guide.
Okay, I got distracted by Seth. I'm with you on spankings. Finally, a podcaster saying you're right. The one thing I disagree with Dave Smith on is spankings, but he doesn't have a son, just daughters. And that triggered me a little bit because I didn't spank Lynn because I didn't want her to have like men can beat you and it could be okay because I love you. Like I didn't want to set that seed at all.
Interesting.
I do have this thing I got from my mom though of just like it was more kind of like an ear thing. So it was like the closest I could get, but I'm not like a spanker. So it's like I am on the fence with it. And to this day, like Lynn doesn't like wooden spoons because her mom is a wooden spooner.
So her mom has spanked her.
Yeah, her mom spanks her.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I felt like I didn't want to cross that boundary. And boys and girls, little girls, like I was very weird about that. So
I would be a problem. Everybody should be glad that I don't have kids. For anybody that's seen The Sound of Music, for years, I would watch that movie and be like, I love that he does that whistle thing and like the kids line up. And look, I get the moral of the story is his arc is that he realizes you have to treat them like kids and like let them have a childhood. But oh God, I watched that and I was like, yes, please. So yeah, anyway, I'll come back to if Lynn didn't need it, amazing. But as a parent, I would be the disciplinarian. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. My wife is, and I don't think anybody at Impact Theory would believe that my wife is terrible at that. My wife is terrible at that. She would not be the disciplinarian. She would let the kids just like run riot. That does not match my personality. So I don't have kids, so nobody has to worry. But yeah, I would for sure be like, if it is necessary, yes, I have no problem spanking a kid.
Okay, with I feel like the first two topics have kind of been the result of populist moments. People are feeling uncertain economically. People are feeling a little antsy. So when something race happens, they kind of jump on that. When we're seeing international terrorism, quote unquote, cartel members, we're trying to stop it. We're trying to put our thumb down and put our foot down and get some law and order back in place. Is this because maybe America is going through something right now? The manufacturing sector in 2025 alone has lost 42,000 jobs since Liberation Day. The BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, have just downgraded 900,000 jobs in the last 3 months. That can then get expanded into, some people are saying 1 million plus if you're going through all of 4 of Biden's years. So we're now realizing that the economy isn't as strong as we thought from both a jobs market standpoint and you take out the Mag 7 and the S&P is like flat, not even growing. So now you're starting to see some chinks in the armor. From an economic standpoint, how are you feeling? And I definitely want to jump into the fiscal dominance stuff after your initial point.
Okay, so from an economic standpoint, you have to separate the average person, the person that doesn't own assets, from the person that does own assets. If you own assets, the economy's awesome. It's probably in a bubble and you're probably about to go through a multi-year recession. But nonetheless, whatever, those happen every now and then. And as long as there's not some massive like trend coming that I can't see, like stagflation or something like that, your way bigger concern is that America ends in revolution or civil war by orders of magnitude than that you end up in 30 years of stagflation like Japan. So I don't think that we have that problem because we are still the world's reserve currency. So you'd have a managed decline there. For people that don't own assets, this is a catastrophic time. Catastrophic. And so this is why I am really so I'm driven by meaning and purpose. So that's the thing that pushes me. So for anybody that's confused why a guy with as much money as I have, why I do what I do, why I didn't just ride off into the sunset, it's because I want to matter. I want to make sure that my cycles on this earth, I feel like I'm contributing to the group in a positive way. And so the thing that I can see with my talent, my intelligence, my passions, the thing that I'm good at is helping people think through these kinds of problems. And right now, going back to this idea, today's theme of the show, I guess, is level of analysis. You get somebody like Gary's Economics, he's identified the problem. Someone like Mamdani, he's identified the problem, but their solution is retarded. So it's like that's where I fit right now. And over time, maybe that'll change and maybe people will figure this out. But right now, that's the thing that I'm really trying to drive home for people is there are traceable physics to why the economy is booming for people that own assets and why it's a horrific train wreck for people that don't own assets. And so now it's like, well, do you want to keep being in that side of things, or are you going to finally make the transition and learn about this? And as somebody who's now spent, 5 years learning about investing, it's like even now I'm like, I was talking to Lisa about this over my vacation, is like, oh, I now see a future where I don't have to worry about making money off of entrepreneurship, which is where I've always focused. I'm good at making money. I'm not good at investing money. But now as I get better at investing money and I understand this game, I haven't made more yet off of investing than I made off of entrepreneurship, but I made a lot. And so it's like, whoa, this really works. So that's the thing I've become evangelical about, is getting people to understand you don't have to remain in the camp of like, well, I'm not part of the elite. I'm not in the top 10%. I'm not in the 1%. It's like, stop. That's emotion. That's narrative. Get to the physics of money. Okay. It works in a knowable way, which means that you can do knowable things to have a knowable outcome. There are no guarantees, but you can like dramatically increase the odds that 20 years from now, you are in a wildly better financial position than you're in now. It's a very simple learning exercise. And so again, emotions make dots feel like they connect that don't connect. So when I heard that PBD debate with Jubilee, the thing that PBD did not understand is you have to go immediately to their value system. You have to get them to articulate what the value system is that drives their hatred of capitalism. And so then we can go, okay, I get what you're trying to steer towards, and it's either nonsensical or, oh, that actually makes sense. And now let's look at the physics of the economy. Because he never got, I've only watched the first half, so maybe he does get to it eventually. But he was not addressing the physics of why socialism breaks down. Socialism breaks down because you, dear viewer, won't work for free. Period. That's it. None of us will work for free. Because none of us will work for free, giving people things for free never works, because you were saying, oh, you need to do that thing for free. People also don't understand how tax revenue is generated. So because they don't understand how tax revenue is generated through entrepreneurship, period, end of story, full stop, nothing else, then it's like, oh, well, if you break entrepreneurship, then there's nothing to give for free. So the very thing that's putting them in this impoverished position that's breaking the economy is money printing. So it's the part of the government that deviates from capitalism. Now, capitalism needs to be checked. It needs regulations. But as we deviate more and more from capitalism, we break the system more and more. That's what's messing people up. It isn't capitalism. It's the way that we've manipulated it, corrupted it, that becomes the problem. And socialism is that on steroids. Socialism is, let's take all the things that we've done to break the economy and magnify it 100-fold. So my job, as I see it, is to go to bat for the average person, to show them, here are the policies you would need to change. And then barring that, because I think changing policies is next to impossible, here are the things you would need to do in your own life. And then here are the things that we could do culturally that would be better, but culture takes, call it 2 generations to change.
And I'm not seeing that ripple happen right now. There's a lot of chatter in the chat right now about,
let's go.
Where can we start? You can't eat assets. You're saying a bunch of things, but what should we actually do? But I think that's the punchline, right?
Well, let's walk them through it. Yeah. I'm happy to get super specific. So the thing that you should be doing is Ray Dalio is the best. So you can just follow him. He's got what he calls the all-weather strategy. So the all-weather portfolio. So go learn the principles of that. He's laid it out endlessly. Just follow him on Instagram. You can certainly read his books, but he details it out over and over and over. We just had Lynn Alden on the program. She has her 3 pillars strategy.
Fantastic.
Again,
by the way, definitely check it out.
Go look at that. I just did a deep dive where I walk through Lynn Alden's, like a distilled version of Lynn Alden's 3-pillar strategy. You don't even have to go beyond my content to find these answers, but certainly you can. There are plenty of people talking about this, but you have to own assets. The one that everybody understands intuitively is housing, but this is not a good moment for housing. People have been priced out of it due to inflation. So far better to go somewhere where you can own a small piece of something, like the stock market. The stock market, for all of its corruption, is a modern miracle. Invest in the stock market. Find things that have a long-term track record of delivering dividends in a sustainable way to their shareholders. So you're going to look for those. It's going to be, call it 40% of your portfolio. Another, call it 30% of your portfolio is going to be risk on assets. So things like crypto, You're going to do things that are protective, like Bitcoin or gold, so that you're probably not going to get the insane like upside. Certainly not with gold. Bitcoin probably isn't going to look. That one maybe still has legs. Maybe it's going to keep growing, like everybody says. But anyway, you're looking for things that can't be inflated. That's the key there. And then have some really protective stuff like bonds, tips, things that you're just trying to make sure that your principal there's no such thing, but that has what they call a risk-free rate of return. Nothing is truly risk-free, but you get the idea. And so that's going to be roughly 10 to 20% of your portfolio. That's a really bad sort of fumbly way through it. I've done far clearer, simple step-by-step breakdowns. And again, Ray Dalio, Lynn Alden both do incredible breakdowns. You can find both of them inside my content, or you can go directly to their own stuff. But this is all very knowable. It's very simple. Get into the stock market in a super broad way, okay? Be very careful about just like over-indexing on technology, for instance, because you're probably in a bubble right now. Go a little bit broader than that, though. Yes, I'm hyper aware that 7 companies make up, or I'm not sure if it's all 7 anymore, but anyway, a very small number of companies make up the vast majority of the gains in the stock market. So, and I'm happy to answer very specific questions if people have it, but that gets you the rough answer.
Yeah, that kind of gets us rolling right there. There's this new level. I've been looking up Professor Wolf. I'm debating if I'm going to bring him up at the time. So if people in the chat know, let me think what you think about him. He's talking about this new model of socialism. And a lot of times when people say, well, Russia, Cuba, these places already did it. He's like, no, not that socialism. When I think of socialism, I'm thinking of the working class and the collective making decisions and not just being done by the CEO. So an example he uses, like, let's say a company at the end of the year, they have a quarterly meeting with all their employees. How should we divvy up profits? What should be the expenditures for next year? That those types of decisions are done collectively, and then everybody goes into their individual buckets and kind of executes like they do normally.
Can't do that.
That's where my pitch going is at. Like, where do you think some people are saying that is still democratic, but it has a socialism aspect added to it that can kind of become better
for people
everybody?
That do not understand how to run a company. So look, you can sell a company to the employees, but you're making them shareholders. And so, sure, love it. For people that want to do it, doesn't happen very often because it can create a lot of weird distortions. But hey, by all means, it is a thing. The far better idea, in my opinion, is, hey, we've got this thing that's been around since the 1600s. It's called the stock market. And you can go buy, rather than just the company that you work for, you can get a piece of every company. Even entrepreneurs who are saying, I'm risking everything because I believe that I can build the mass amount of wealth. Even they will diversify into other companies and not just hold their own company. So take advantage of that. Like, people try to get real fucking fancy when the answer has already been made. Very simple. The stock market allows you to have a piece of any public company. You can even get a piece of private companies. That's becoming so available due to technology that you could, if you don't mind a dramatically decreased amount of liquidity, you can go buy into private companies. So the options are better than they've ever been at any time in human history. The problem is people want to be fancy. They want to be day traders. They want to get rich fast. If people could just say, I'm going to get rich, but it's going to take me 30 years. If they could just have that mentality, oh my God, they would be in the game. The thing that other people are just absolutely destroying their ability to purchase something, they're doing it by understanding how inflation works, that it forces you to own assets. And so if people just accepted, that is what we have voted for. We collectively, as the Western world, because it is not just a phenomenon in America, but we, the Western world, have decided that we are so compassionate that we're going to give so many things away for free that we are now at a point where we can't even tax the populace enough. We've got to tax them invisibly because they'd never vote for it through inflation. And so we're going to deficit spend, inflate your ability to purchase into essentially nothing, force everybody into the stock market. And hey, if you're in the stock market, you're loving life because it's stealing from everybody, but only giving to the people that own assets. And just as a reminder, the assets are owned by the top 10%. The top 10% of people own 93% of all assets. So you can either be in that group or not.
Okay, so I get instead of having an internal conversation with the company, they're better off just owning a stock market and kind of...
Yes, because they need to accept the hard reality. They don't know how to run a company.
So
stop trying to fucking force your company to buy your shares or whatever. You don't know if the company's in that position.
Okay, let's separate those two things. I think I'm a little bit confused, so I can only imagine where the chat is right now. So the socialism policy isn't necessarily that you buy in and become a stockholder, but
let's be very clear. Okay. Socialism is about confiscating the means of production. It is we the workers are going to run this company.
But that's I think where I'm trying to hone in on. There is a hybrid model that is specifically proposed by this professor that says certain large companies from the decisions from the company should be done democratically. So for example, the 2026 planning for impact theory, everybody will sit around the table and say, I have this idea, I have this idea. Mm-hmm. Hypothetically speaking, like, why wouldn't that be closer to, I don't want to use any of these trigger words of equitable or fair.
I love it.
Like
use
that.
Trigger.
That's what I mean.
Trigger the shit out of me.
But some people are saying if we just did that, that would stop income inequality.
False.
That would minimize CEOs having 100x versus that pay. That they say if everybody votes on where those profits go, it will then be done in a more democratic way.
Yes, but they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. So they are going to distribute funds more equitably to people in the company. Theoretically, though I already don't trust them to do that, but let's say theoretically that they did that. What if the company is not in a position to do that? So the way that you attract talent is you offer them a compensation package. Now, this is one of those where, again, people have a finger on a problem. So income inequality is really problematic.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, what do we need to do to actually resolve income inequality? And what I'm saying is socialism is not the answer. This hybrid idea where people vote on it is not the answer. What you need to do to start getting rid of income inequality has a lot to do with globalism, and it has everything to do with inflation. So you've got to put people in a position where they can save their money and become like self-sufficient from that perspective. When people talk about not being able to get ahead, what they're really talking about is I'm always behind, always in debt, always in debt. So the question becomes, why is everything getting more expensive? The reason everything is getting more expensive is because the government is printing money. Why is the government printing money? The government is printing money because they want to deficit spend. They want to give too many things away for free. So now they have to lower the value of the dollar, which makes asset prices seem to go up in value, when in reality, they're not actually going up in value. It's just a place for you to hide from the effects of inflation. So getting people to understand, oh, you have a flight to safety. It's called asset ownership. You would be far better off never again voting for anybody who deficit spends. Right now, both sides deficit spend. And unfortunately, because you can't convince the other people in the world to vote for austerity, they're just going to keep doing that, which means just in reality, you have to put yourself in a position where you can own assets. Okay, going back to specifically, like, I don't like capitalism. Let's just round it to that. The question becomes, why doesn't socialism work? Why isn't what's going on in the Nordic countries? Why isn't that socialism? Because it isn't. Why isn't that socialism? Why isn't China like actual communism? Because it isn't. And so you have to start teasing these things out. Once you realize, oh, all the Nordic countries, they use a privatized model. They just tax the life out of everybody. Right now, we tax the life out of only the top earners. Nordic countries tax everybody. So if you wanted a flat tax, then you could start doing these crazy things. But we don't want a flat tax. We want to tax the people that are the highest earners. We want that progressive tax. Okay, but then you run into the situation that we're in now. So this comes down to, all right, pick a country and say, okay, I want things to be more like that. And then just look at the trade-offs. Everything's going to be a trade-off. So if you want your country to be like China, you've got a high risk, in America anyway, you've got a high risk of a population that can't agree with each other. So now you've got authoritarian top-down rule, but with a populace that really disagrees. So now the authoritarian rule has to like go in and browbeat everybody to get them back in line. Think about China and the Tiananmen Square massacre. You start seeing stuff like that. So do we want to see Trump's National Guard actually shooting and killing Americans? I certainly do not. But that is how you get people in line. You need to look no further than China's history. If you want to do something more like the model in Norway, for instance, okay, you're going to need some of their geographic advantages, which we don't have. but that would be one good place to start. Then you're going to have to be willing to tax everybody across the board, which we have not shown a willingness to do. Also, you've got to stop deficit spending. So there's all kinds of things. It's just all a trade-off. So innovation is killed in the Nordic countries. You just look at the number of per capita companies that end up being successful. If you take out oil from Norway, for instance, one of the most successful Nordic countries, all of a sudden they're not in competition from a GDP perspective. So it's like, yes, they have insane natural resources, a very homogenous culture. So basically people share a value set. So it becomes far easier to convince everybody to take care of everybody. But on a global stage, they just don't matter. So it comes down to, are you playing to win or not? America very much has that ethos. So, but if people at least picked a country and said, I want to be like that, then we go, okay, what would the trade-offs have to be? Because it isn't that America couldn't over time become more like that, but it's going to be a trade-off.
Okay. And then now from like a country perspective, because I think the biggest issue I think a lot of people are clinging to socialism is because, yes, money printing is something that is driving the actual problem underlying it. But we're seeing so many impacts on a day-to-day level that it's now creating other misaligned incentives. So when I see certain profit margins, or when I see certain businesses or companies who increased, like the whole greedflation increase that happened over the pandemic, where some people were pointing to supply chains, but they also had prices increase while the amount of goods they were sending to the consumers decreased. So I'm seeing certain level of things that's like, okay, while yes, the government printing money is bad, we're still seeing all these other things in the economy that are controllable, that people are taking advantage of the situation. So I think a lot of times, just like with these other populist moments with the racism or the attacks, we're seeing crony capitalism happening. We're saying, see, that's why capitalism is bad. But the greater free market, pure capitalism doesn't necessarily happen as often, or we're too many layers removed from that. Does that make sense? You get what I'm saying with that?
I do, sort of. So it really comes down to, what are people trying to accomplish? What is the system that's going to allow them to accomplish that? What are the physics that have put us in the situation that we're in? And then people being able to think up from that. So again, people have their finger on a real problem. We have both a wealth disparity that's untenable and an income inequality that's untenable. Those things have to be resolved. So now the question becomes, how do you resolve them? We can model ourselves after other countries as long as we look at the real things that are working for them and what might make us just modeling that one-to-one difficult or impossible. So Brutus Lugo was saying, in all caps, as is his way, that the Norway, he may have said Nordic countries, but they don't have a flat tax. He's right about that, but they tax way more broadly than we do in the US. So as a reminder, the top 50% of taxpayers in America pay 97% of the taxes. So that means 50% pay 3%. You're never going to get that in a Nordic country. There's just, unless you do that, unless you broadly tax people, including the poor, you're never going to be able to generate enough funds. So again, build up from first principles. What are the physics of money? So we, as a reserve currency, what are the things that we're going to be able to do that other people won't be able to do? This is the whole Russia thing about US crypto. It's just a guise for them to be able to export more inflation, get more people to buy their debt in the form of stablecoins. 1,000%. I guarantee you Scott Besson has had that conversation. And he's like, ooh, yes, like pass all that legislation so that I can sell all of our debt via backing stablecoins one-to-one with US treasuries. It's brilliant. And so being mad about that's wild. That's brilliant. So there are certain things that America can do that other countries can't do. There are certain things that America has shown a willingness to do that other countries won't, and things that other countries have been willing to do that we have shown that we won't do. We won't do austerity. That seems, at least right now. We're not willing to tax the poor, at least right now. So it's like, well, okay, that closes doors. But if people want to have that conversation, like, I have been very clear. Innovation is one of my just like absolute top priorities. I don't think America's going to win on a global, and winning, by the way, is one of my priorities. I want America to be number one, not number two, not number three, number one. So that makes goals make demands. set of demands made by that goal. Innovation. Countries should optimize for innovation. Okay, well, that makes demands. So if you want people to innovate, then you have to incentivize them. I get that people don't want that to be true. I get people are going to talk about intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is very real. But people are not intrinsically motivated when they are not able to reap the fruits of their labor. And that's where PBD never said that in the debate. And I was like, bro, you've got to say that out loud. Like, nobody feels intrinsically motivated when other people get all the fruits of their labor. No matter how much they feel like they're contributing to the group, the reality is if they're not recognized for it, if they're not compensated for it, if they're working that hard, taking all that risk, putting themselves out there, and then they've still got to work 2-3 jobs to scrape together, get the fuck out of here. Like that's nonsensical. So you've got to say those things. You've got to ground people on the human psychology that makes socialism just not work, just never, ever, ever work. And when people say that, oh, that's not real socialism, what they mean is the hyper arrogant statement of, well, if I was in charge, I would make all the right decisions. No, you wouldn't, because these things are so complicated that you have to get to the foundation of just the soil, adjust the soil through regulations, incentive structures, property rights, things like that, and then let emergent phenomenon come out of that.
One of the things that you say all the time is that out of the 4 pillars that Ray, the beautiful deleveraging that Ray Dalio talks about, is we have to redistribute wealth. A lot of people
as one of the levers.
As one of the levers, absolutely. Some of the people in the chat are saying that redistribution can happen at the company level through these like innovative voting structures, things like that. How would you see the redistribution happening at like, not necessarily policy level, because I'm sure each state will be different and there'd be certain nuances, I understand that, but generally, directionally speaking, how do you see that redistribution happening?
Okay, so one, talking at the company level, I guarantee you the people putting that forward have not built companies. Building a company is so hard, and the thought that I would have to get my company to vote on where I want to allocate capital to is insane. So first of all, they don't have the full picture of the company. They are going to over-index on what's good for them individually, what's good for their department. They don't even have the understanding of the total company and what the company's trying to do, oftentimes in that year, let alone like broadly enough. And I hate to say it, but from an intellectual horsepower perspective, there are going to be plenty of people in the company that simply aren't intellectually capable of like making decisions that will help that company thrive. Companies go in and out of business so fast. In the 60s, if you made it to the S&P 500, you were likely to stay for roughly 62 years on the S&P 500. That number has dropped to 16. It's on its way to 12. And I have no idea if there's going to be any kind of floor. So companies can and do go out of existence very rapidly. And the thought that you're going to be able to do that by consensus is ludicrous. So if people have ever heard the phrase, a camel is a horse by committee, that's what you get. So companies have their downsides just like any country would by having a dictator at the top, but it's the only way that you can move fast enough that you can have one vision so the company's not pulling against itself. And even then, you still have some of that within individual departments. Okay, how would we redistribute wealth? The way that we would redistribute wealth is through government programs. They are not going to be the best, but I don't see another way that would be trusted by the populace to get the money back into the system. So there is going to be a certain amount of inefficient wealth redistribution via public services and goods. And it will be grossly inefficient, but you're really doing that as a way to psychologically soothe the populace. You're not actually doing it to solve the underlying economic problem. That's what you're trying to do to stop them from rioting in the streets.
Okay. I don't know if you see anything on the chat from your side.
So one is, Tom immediately thinks his people are too stupid to play. Just educate them. You didn't
Stop right there. Stop. If this person has lived more than 20 years of life and they have not encountered people that are too dumb to make good decisions, then they're not paying attention. So unfortunately, to run a company well, it takes a crazy set of characteristics. One of them is intelligence. So there are two things that predict your success: the zip code you grow up in and your intelligence, your raw IQ. And so anybody that is trying to live in some la-la land where IQ doesn't matter. And I used to try to live in that la la land. And I remember I used to get clowned on relentlessly by some of my friends because they were like, Tom, life is going to teach you one immutable truth, that some people are not smart enough to navigate the world well. And I really hate that. I hate that that's true, but it nonetheless is true. And depending on what the person's role is in the company, there is less intellectual horsepower needed. And so some people can be very good at their job. They can be a wonderful human being, but not have the intellectual horsepower to make decisions of capital allocation. So nobody is more sad than me, as I live in perpetual fear that I'm not smart enough to pull off the things that I want in my life. It just is what it is.
And then how do we incentivize companies to pay their employees more?
Okay, so it has to be a function of growing the company that I can attract better talent by paying them more, because I am always going to, as a person trying to protect the interests of my company, I'm always going to try to maximize the long-term profitability of my company. So only a fool is making short-term decisions, and there are plenty of fools in the world, plenty of fools that run companies. But I'm going to try to maximize the long-term profitability of my company. Now, I'm a private company, so I don't have to worry about shareholder value, so I'm not trapped in that. But if I am able to attract better talent by paying them more, I will pay them more. If I'm not able to attract better talent by paying them more, then it doesn't make any sense, and I'm just weakening the financial stability of my company. So you'll see things like Zuckerberg offering billion-dollar compensation packages because he can directly track what that person is going to be able to do in his company to, from a profitability standpoint, to the skill set that they have. Elon Musk has said a very powerful quote, which I think is completely accurate, which is, you get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of the problems you solve. Cool. The big thing that people should be worried about is globalization, because what I'm saying is, oh, cool. You, dear American, are too expensive. And I know that a big part of what I'm looking for is raw intelligence. Word, I'll go to India. They've got whatever 1.4 billion people, some percentage of that, let's say the top 5% is who I want to target. And when you take 5% of 1.4 billion, it is a lot of people. And so the cost of living over there is much lower. So for them, let's say $100,000 is a ton of money. And I might have to pay in the US $140,000, $150,000 for that same level of talent, skill set, intellect. Great, I can just outsource it. So if people were saying, I don't want to see companies outsourcing, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. Globalization made it nearly impossible for the average American worker to negotiate on their own behalf. It isn't tied to unionization. It's crazy. But when you look at the effects of unionization, it's single-digit percentage impact on the amount of money that somebody makes. Globalization, on the other hand, I forget the exact percentage, but it accounted for a lot more. So when I was doing that deep dive on this, I was like, holy shit, I was as surprised as anybody. So globalization, wildly problematic. Increase in technology, wildly problematic, because I can write software that can outperform the average person. So there's all these things that are working against the average worker. Those things are very real. I don't want to fractal into what happens with AI and it being a totally different type of economy, but we are almost certainly on that migration point. And it's going to be weird and difficult. That's why I'm saying, hey, there's a way to win in the system right now. And the way to win in the system right now, up-level your skill set, master AI, and invest in the stock market in an intelligent way. Like unfortunately, you have to do those things. Otherwise, people are just going to get eaten alive by inflation.
Last one on that point about investing in the stock market. Jeremy Layden said, it's kind of sad we live in a reality where you can only prosper as a human being if you own things. Call them assets, whatever. The things you own end up owning you.
I disagree with the last thing, but yes, I have said many, many times people should be mad as hell that they're forced to invest in the stock market. You should be mad about that. You should be mad about that. But then you should also remember that we're all voting for it. So both parties are going to do things to deficit spend. And the reason they're going to do things to deficit spend is that's the only way to get re-elected. So as long as that's true, as long as we point all 10 fingers of responsibility back at ourselves, then at least we're looking at the right thing. But the reality is people are not here for austerity. Not yet. We have to suffer more. I hate that is true, but that's just the way that things move.
Okay, bringing it back up to the society level. There's been a lot of talk of fiscal dominance lately, the situation in which the federal budget is getting out of hand, the federal deficit is getting out of hand, and the bond market is broken. I want to jump to this video from Andre Jikol, Jikh, on my smarter chat. People can tell me how to pronounce that. And his policy on how the bond market just broke the Fed.
So it looks like the central banks of the world are slowly losing control over interest rates.
There is breaking news as we come on the air.
The Trump economy is sputtering. We learned this morning that job growth in the past 3 months has all but ended.
The jobs numbers changed again, and we're now showing we actually lost 13,000 jobs in June. That is the first negative jobs report since 2021. And the most recent August one was also bad. We added only 22,000 jobs, which means unemployment is now at 4.3%. So to save the economy, the Federal Reserve might come in and cut interest rates by as much as 0.5%, which is huge. And in the short term, that sounds like a good idea. But here's the problem. The bond market is telling us we actually might be in a recession already. Investors don't believe inflation or debt can be controlled no matter what the Fed does at this point. Now, you might be thinking, Andre, I do not care about bonds. I don't invest in them. I don't buy them. But bonds run the world. They set the interest rates for the cost of things like mortgages, loans, and even the value of our currency. And it's not just happening in the US, it's happening across almost every
Pause it for a second. So here is the problem. This is where we get into the economy is just complicated enough that, again, this is largely going to break along the lines of whether people have the intellectual horsepower to figure this out. Mm-hmm. This is why I like the idea of if we're going to inflate people's money into non-existent, which I wish we would stop, but if we're going to do that, then setting up some sort of fund when kids are born where we either put one lump sum and then just let it accrue, or we like constantly put money into it instead of doing a lot of the entitlements that we're doing now. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. Otherwise, people are going to get left behind. This is one of those where people don't want there to be trade-offs, but there are trade-offs. If you deficit spend, okay, you can do it, Drew. Obviously. Look at the world. Hey, we're here. We deficit spend. It looks the way that it looks. But it has these insane trade-offs. And the biggest one is inflation. We are going to take from everybody, and we're only going to give back. And I probably should explain to people what I mean by give back, but we're only going to give back to people that hold assets. They're technically not giving you anything, but those assets will respond from a price perspective to the amount of money that you print, just automatically. Because what ends up happening is you've got a bunch of people, it's always an auction, basically. You're going to sell it for whatever you can sell it for. As more money goes into the system, more people are willing to bid on those assets and say, oh, I'll buy that house for a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I'll buy that stock for a little bit more. And so the price is going up, 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 up. Now, why are they willing to buy it for a little bit more? Because they've got that money. The money is printed, it goes into the system. And so as people accumulate that money, there are more people that have enough money to bid on that thing. But because no additional goods have been created, the technical real answer is more money has been printed than new goods have come into existence. Mm-hmm. So the discrepancy creates more people competing for those things. Now, once you start understanding that, you're like, I know exactly where I need to put my money. If you don't understand that, and I know that even right now, no matter how many times I've said this, that because there are always going to be things you leave out each time you talk about it because it's so complicated, that it's very hard to get a total picture of things. Even I don't think I have a total picture of it, as I've said. Mm-hmm. I think Scott Besson would laugh at my understanding of the economy. I would not have known how to break the back of the Bank of England, which he did with George Soros. Too sophisticated for me. So that level of ignorance is the thing that holds people back. What he's trying to explain to people is that fiscal dominance. So fiscal means government spending, definitionally. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is colloquially, we will use the word fiscal to just mean monetary. Mm-hmm. But Fiscal dominance means governmental spending dominance. What's actually happening in fiscal dominance is the government is deficit spending at a rate that when the Fed tries to adjust interest rates to control the money printing based on the private economy, so based on borrowing to buy a house, borrowing to start a business, like whatever, all the things that individuals will borrow money for, because every time you borrow money, you're creating money. Let's just be very clear about that. So every time you borrow money, you're creating money. So it's an inflationary event. So what the Fed does is says, ooh, there's too much money coming into the system. I'm going to raise rates to get the average person to be like, ooh, I don't want to buy a house right now. I don't want to take out a mortgage. It's too expensive. And so the Fed's like, cool, we know how to regulate the how hot the economy is how they would say it. Yeah. We know how to regulate that by adjusting the interest rate. As people start taking out too many loans, we raise the interest rate so they'll slow down. If people aren't taking out enough loans, then we lower the interest rate and people start taking out more. And so they try to walk this line. Fiscal dominance happens when the government is taking out money at a rate that the Fed has to print, or technically the Treasury, but they have to print money to keep up with it. And so no matter what the Fed does to individuals, the government's like, bro, I have to keep printing money. It's the only way that I can meet my debt obligations. So I am going to keep printing. And so the Fed's like, well, shit, then I'm in a bad position because if I raise interest rates, I increase the rate at which the government has to borrow money. And then the train goes off the tracks.
Because I can't cool the economy because that makes it more expensive, but I also can't inflate the economy because then it makes it more expensive. So it's like...
So that's what's known as fiscal dominance. And so once you're in fiscal dominance, basically, and this is why Lynn Alden says this train has no brakes or nothing can stop this train. What she means is there's no way to stop it other than what Ray Dalio would call a beautiful deleveraging, which requires, among levers, austerity. You must slow down the rate at which you spend money. Yeah. And so right now we have a grow or collapse strategy. And I want everyone to be wide-eyed about that. Right now, every administration, Trump, Biden, everybody,
Obama, Bush,
all of them, all they're saying is we're going to grow our way out of this, or we're going to let it collapse when somebody else is in office. And that's it. That's the strat. And it is a terrible strategy that has led to all the problems that people can feel, but they don't know how to point to. And so they go, capitalism's broken, blah, blah, blah. That isn't the problem. Yeah.
And then that brings me right to, speaking of crypto and stable coins, that brings me right to...
Really, really fast, just because Brutus has said something. Beautiful deleveraging requires socialist policies. It doesn't require socialist policies, but it does require redistribution of wealth temporarily in a very delicate balance. So if you do this poorly, then the society comes off the rails. But yes, you're going to do things in a very temporary way that otherwise you'd be like, we would never want to do this.
What are some of those examples of delicate?
Redistributing wealth. Taxing the wealthy more.
Taxing the wealthy more.
Taxing the poor.
Taxing the poor more.
And do it all.
Increasing taxes.
Print money.
Print money. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then austerity. Those are the four things. Yeah. So you're going to do a bunch of things. You're going to do two things that are inflationary, and you're going to do two things that are deflationary.
Just turn those knobs and hope it works out.
And like little tweaks, watch. But yeah, you have to get out from under the debt. There's no other way. And so you want to grow the economy. But I mean, look, it is possible that we get a once in history opportunity that AI just comes in and smashes it, and it grows GDP so much that's like, cool, 37 trillion, it's nothing. But the odds of that, ooh, buddy, not good. Not good.
All right, so Putin's advisor, Koblakov, says the U.S. has devised a crypto scheme to erase its massive debt at the world's expense. The U.S. is now trying to rewrite the rules of the gold and cryptocurrency markets. Remember the size of their debt.
This is a direct quote, by the way.
Yeah, direct quote, $35 trillion. These two sectors, crypto and gold, are essentially...
Wrong about 35, it's 37 trillion.
At the time, it was probably 35.
Yeah, if he said it 9 minutes ago.
These are two sectors, crypto and gold, are essentially alternative to the traditional global currency system. Washington's actions in this area clearly highlight one of its main goals: to urgently address the declining trust in the dollar. As in the 1930s and in the 1970s, the U.S. plans to solve its financial problems at the world's expense, this time by pushing everyone into the crypto cloud. Over time, once part of the U.S. national debt is placed into stablecoins, Washington will devalue that debt. Put simply, they have $35 trillion in currency debt. They'll move it into the crypto cloud, devalue it, and start from scratch. This is also on the back of people talking about we would potentially revalue our gold reserves to lower our debt as well. So there are kind of the world is getting hip that America is in debt and we're trying to get out of it. What say you with this specific? Are you still long crypto? Do you still think we have a little bit of fuzzy background with that? What's your take?
Okay, so I think that in the end, the Russian comment that the U.S. is using cryptocurrency as a way to export inflation is absolutely true. For him to say that that is the very structure of crypto, that's what it's designed for, is false. But there is no doubt Scott Bessent is a brilliant economic mind. He is one of the best economic minds I've ever come across. So he's in that very elite echelon of people who've made money off of understanding the economy and is now setting policy. And I think that he is very aware of the fact that if we can back stablecoins with a one-to-one U.S. Treasury, that would give us a huge market, wildly increased market for our national debt. So 100%, the Russians are right to point that out. That is very true. And then that we will weaken the dollar is inevitably. It is not and then we'll weaken the dollar. We have to weaken the dollar. There are structural realities to be faced. If you are deficit spending, you are going to weaken the dollar. Full stop, period, end of story. It's not possible to not, especially once you're in fiscal dominance, which we are in, where the government is ultimately, the government spending is the thing that controls the rate, because the Fed is not going to be able to reduce the rate for the reasons that we were talking about a minute ago, because private loans are not the thing that accounts for the massive inflationary effect. It's governmental loans that cause the massive inflationary effect. So you are in a storm where the US is looking for anything that will forestall the collapse of their currency, or at least make it so slow that it's still the best alternative. Because that's what you're going to hear people say all the time about the dollar. Yes, it's being inflated. Yes, it's terrible what the US is doing, but where else are you going to go? Do you really trust the Chinese? No, you do not trust the Chinese. You're going to use the British pound? No, you were not. So it's like, you don't have any alternative. That's what people are going to say. But you'll be forced into an alternative if the US dollar inflates too quickly. So right now, barring that once in history growth rate that maybe we get from AI, you're not going to be able to grow your way out of a $37 trillion debt problem. You are going to have to eradicate some of that debt. And so you're going to have to do it through austerity, devaluing the dollar, and that's devaluing the dollar is going to be the big one by a country mile. So anything that helps them do that more slowly over a longer period of time increases the odds that they're able to remain the world's reserve currency. Because if you can drop the value by 99% over 100 years, most people don't really blink, because the US has already done it. I think it's 95%, but still. Sheesh. Catastrophic.
Sheesh. Well, because my thing, right, is I thought we were saying the quiet part out loud. I thought it was like, yeah, we're the world's reserve currency, but yeah, we're the people of the world. We're here for you. I feel like with the Russian advisor saying that, well, Putin's advisor saying it, it's kind of like, wait, America is just trying to look out for America. Why should we align with them? We shouldn't let them get off the hook. And with the BRICS nation being a majority of GDP, majority of population, they kind of have a bigger say on the global stage if they actually acted as a united bloc.
If you see a large number of people moving in lockstep, they have been coerced in some way. The only way to get a large group of people moving in the same direction that isn't coerced would be religion. And then you sort of have the coercion of God, because he's like, bro, if you don't, you're going to burn in hell for all eternity. If you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to get a large group of people moving together. You're just not. Yeah. So like, if you go back and research what happened in Bretton Woods when we actually became the world's reserve currency, it wasn't like everybody was like, word, man, all good. It was, hey, you all just got obliterated by World War II. You dumbasses wouldn't stop bombing each other. We, the US, were geographically blessed by God. And so, hey, we've come out of all this where you guys owe us gazillions of dollars. And so you don't have a fucking choice. If you don't want me to come choke you out with the amount of money that you owe me, then we're going to be the reserve currency. And for that, we are going to give you like certain privileges that you otherwise wouldn't get. And so they're like, I have no leverage. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm trying to get people to understand about, like, people want to go and vote and all that to get, better pay. No. That's not how this game works. The game works, you have to have leverage. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to let companies go overseas, you diminish your leverage. So if you want to increase your leverage, stop importing cheap labor, stop letting companies go wherever the hell they want. That's it. Like that is your only way. So figure out where your leverage is, increase your leverage. That's why it makes me sad for other people that don't have what I call the only belief that matters. If you put time and energy into getting better at something, you will actually get better. So if you reject that because you're cynical and you don't want to go get better, cool, then you're fucked. Because for the foreseeable future, we are going to keep outsourcing jobs. So I think Trump has a playbook where he's trying to bring high-tech manufacturing back to the US. We'll see. But also I think a lot of people are going to get displaced by AI. So there's that. But the one thing that you can do, and I get it, most people won't because they have a very low utility algorithm running in their brain that's all about victimization, bad Mr. Capitalist, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And so they don't try to up-level their skills. They don't try to figure out how to make money in stocks. And they just let themselves get inflated into oblivion and to really sit in the very real problem rather than looking for a very real solution to that problem. This was part of what watching the Patrick Bet-David on Jubilee was like, yo, these are people that are they're mad as hell. And they've built really like sophisticated arguments against capitalism, but they don't have any like first principles thinking on socialism and why it will work. And that one's very sad.
So it's more so capitalism bad versus like the
yeah, I can point out all the things that are broken, but I can't tell you what we're going to do to fix it. It's just socialism, literally. And then they weren't even asking good questions in that, but I would be so curious to know like what people think happens. Why do the ones go wrong when this has always been tried? Like, what is it that happens? Because you can't take an ideology in theory and then go, well, okay, I get that it never works in practice, but still the theory is so dope. I don't know how they rationalize it to themselves.
Yeah. All right. I think it's tinfoil time. I invite everybody to put on their tinfoil hats right now. For those new to the show, tinfoil means we can't confirm or deny this evidence. We're just going to, talk about it. And I like it, and I'm really into it. And I think this is real. I think that this is a big galaxy. I think that it is arrogant for us to think that in 1 billion planets, we're the only planet with some type of life. I still believe in God, and I still think Jesus came and saved me from my sins and all that. But hey, man, maybe God was bored and he did a V1 on the other planet. He was like, yeah, I don't like that. We're just going to separate these. I don't know. I don't have that answer. But Congress had a hearing yesterday where they talked about the confirmation of unidentified objects, UFOs. And I think this video has been damning and has been circling the internet, where it shows a Reaper drone that captured a UFO seemingly deflecting. I heard some people say splitting it, but they tried to shoot this thing down and it just kind of eviscerated the missile. So Tom, tinfoil hat and all, like how do you make sense of this? What's your rationale? So
I look at this and I see either it's something I just don't understand. And if I was seeing like better footage, because this literally looks like a 1984 Space Invaders video game. So it's like, this is so low resolution. I don't actually know what I'm looking at. Yeah. So one, let me just be very clear. Who knows what this actually is? But if anything, I would say what you're looking at is military technology. I don't see any reason to have to go to that this is alien stuff. So yeah, none of that makes sense to me. When I think about the physics that would be required to bend space-time in order to come here, the level of sophistication that you would have to be would be so insane. You're not going to get caught clumsy unless this is like a dare where it's juveniles from some other civilization. And they're like, yo, for my science project, I'm going to warp space time and like pop into Earth real fast. And oh shit, because I'm dumb.
It's Ding Dong Dash.
Yeah,
with a
like,
bunch of
I want to see how
aliens.
close I could get to their, low quality Hellfire missiles. Yeah, I mean, look, I really believe that there is alien intelligence. It's out there somewhere. Otherwise, guaranteed we're in a simulation. And there's no reason to write the code to populate the NPCs and all the other planets. But Occam's razor says the simplest solution is usually the best. And given that we know the military is working on things that we don't know about, and that any sufficiently advanced technology looks like magic to the uninitiated, that I think we're just living through an era where any sufficiently advanced technology we just default, oh, it's aliens. Like that's become the thing. I don't know. It just doesn't strike me as credible. And then when I see the people that are talking about this, they don't sound like the day that Eric Weinstein is one of the people on the panel talking about this, then I'll at least take it a little more seriously. But you've got to give me people that have a like deep and profound understanding of physics talking about this stuff and giving me like plausible explanations of what could be going on that don't end in little green men.
Okay, so then your take on this then, if I heard you right, is that this is secret U.S. military technology or maybe some other country, and they're just denying ownership of it and just saying, yeah, blame the aliens.
Yeah, of course. And then like also people that are looking at it that say that the Hellfire missile just didn't quite make contact and it just sort of glanced off of it because it doesn't detonate. So yeah, I have a feeling that if you really spent the time to research this, there's just so much more going on that we don't know and understand. And so look, I want there to be aliens. That would be the coolest shit ever. Like I'm here for we're in a simulation punchline. I think that would be super dope. I'm here for an aliens punchline. That would be super dope. If God just came down and was like, hey, guess what, y'all? I'm for real. That would be dope. Like I'm all for like crazy things that I can't even begin to imagine right now. I don't think I perfectly understand the universe. That is not my stance. I'm just saying that like jumping immediately to thing I don't understand equals like the most insane, fantastical, cool, but insane and fantastical explanation just does not make sense to me.
And last thing on this, the fact that they were on a House committee, they were interviewing 4 to 5 former generals, Lockheed execs, people in the military, and all of them confirmed in one way or another, yes, this is not military technology. Yes, this is above what we've ever seen.
Can I just add one little thing?
Yeah.
Yes, this is not military technology that I'm aware of. Yeah, exactly. And so like, what's that person's like, what do they do inside the company? How like walled off is this stuff? Is it made by Lockheed Martin or is it made by somebody else? So we've got all kinds of different weapons manufacturers that are coming online right now. We've got different things happening in different countries. And again, this is always some like low quality footage. Like if an alien is going to roll up that has like all this super abilities, then like it's going to be where we're shooting 30 missiles at it and it's like, nope, dodge, hard pass, make it explode over here, revert it back to you. Like it's always this one little thing, a 9-second video, super grainy, can't see shit, not like seen by other people. Yeah, there's just so much room to wiggle. So yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
that's where I come down to
So
this.
until you see a 4K,
Until I
24
see it
frame
myself
export.
in a sustained way. So for instance,
Okay.
all of the UAPs that were flying over Jersey or whatever, that was the one where I was like, all right, this is sustained. People are getting footage of it. If that had come out and Trump was like, yo, guys, holy shit, I just got like briefed, fucking aliens. Then I'd be like, whoa, maybe. But he was like, look, I just got briefed. It's authorized. That's all I'm going to say. Then I was like, okay, yeah. Like this is us running tests or psyoping or whatever. But I don't believe for a second that we could have that level of sustained, like I'm here, I'm doing a thing. And then the government would just be like, no, we're good. You would see them scramble. You would see them like building up defenses or something. Cause you can't have a foreign invader, dude, like just rolling up over New Jersey. and doing their thing in SUV-sized drones, as I was asked to believe that they were. So yeah, no, I think this is going to be some basic explanation stuff.
Somebody said, I want to see E.T. myself. Need Bill Nye the Science Guy touching one on YouTube. That's the only way we'll believe it.
Yeah.
All right.
Even that, I'd be like, this is AI.
They paid Bill Nye.
Yeah, like this has got to be like some stuff where the visibility of it just has to be so sustained. So many people film it. So many people saw it that there's just like consensus about it. But I mean,
Rai17 said the aliens are the only ones buying houses right now. The costs are too high.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
That's why they're staying under the radar. They're trying to get on the property.
Right?
Like the
right? BlackRock is definitely.
All right, let's jump over to the new AI animated film that is releasing. The writer of Paddington 3 was led to write it. It's going to be called Critters, about forest creatures who go on an adventure after their village is disrupted by a stranger. It's cool. OpenAI has backed it. What got me was that it's still costing $30 million. So I was 100% thinking this was like, oh, they're going to VO3 80% of it, add in a VFX part at the end to kind of round it out. But
we're not there yet.
Yeah, it's still.
But if you're normally, let's say, 150 million, and you can get it down to 30 million,
in
you're
9
normally
months
3 years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is, as a reminder, we are so early in AI. We are so early in AI. And for it to already be able to do this, now we need to wait and see if it's any good, because it could be trash. And then it's like, okay, we're farther away than we thought. But if we're already at a reduction in cost of, let's say, 1/5 roughly of what it would have otherwise been, that if we're, call it 25% of the normal length of time, that's insane. So that's the kind of thing that gets me excited. And when I think about the impact that it's had on our development of the video game Project Kaizen here at Impact Theory, I know firsthand how much AI speeds up the process. So I'm not at all surprised that they're still like using animators. I'm not at all surprised that they're using like really good writers. I'm not at all surprised that it's still taking 9 months. And I'm also not at all surprised that they've reduced the cost that much and sped it up by that much. That all feels real. So I look at that and I go, I'm pretty optimistic that they're actually going to output something that's awesome. So yeah, that's thrilling to me, because those kinds of like real world rubber meets the road reductions, but still using human talent, which is where I think we are now. That would be incredible. Like, as somebody who just loves IP, the thought that we could reduce the risk so that people could take way bigger risks with the movies that they make. Lisa and I were talking about, like, we miss the days of indie cinema where you could have like lower budget film that was just emotionally driven, character driven. Like, that was a dope time to watch movies. Like Pulp Fiction, one of my all-time favorite films. No way that gets made today. It's way too big of a risk. And so if we can get to that level with games, with animated films, like that kind of stuff, oh man, you're going to start to see some really cool stuff. And I think there's going to be a really awesome period that we're going to go through where we're getting ultra high quality output. There's still a big enough like threshold that you have to meet to get something out, that there's not going to be the absurd like influx of just volume of content. So you're doing away with the slop, but you're getting things out a lot faster. People can take a lot more risks. I think that's going to be cool.
Yes. And in other AI news, I wanted to jump into Alter Ego, the world's first near telepathic wearable that enables silent communication at the speed of thought.
Alter Ego gives you the power of telepathy, but only for the thoughts you want to share. With Alter Ego, you talk just like you normally would, but without making a sound. Let me show you how it works.
You literally just think.
And for
If
those
you're watching, the words are
We
appearing
all
on the
have
screen.
moments when inspiration strikes and you want to save an idea before it slips
It's
away.
when he starts doing this
You can now
with the other
capture those
person on
instantly
screen
without
I
lifting
was
a
like,
finger.
this
For
is insane. This is one of those where I was screaming, take my money.
Alter Ego
Here
works
is
with
it.
your other devices, but it also works with other people wearing an Alter Ego. It feels almost telepathic.
Okay, they're just thinking words that are appearing on the screen. So theoretically, the other person's hearing it. There's a slight delay, which would get a bit awkward. This is V1. It's so wild, man. I am tripped out that it can read your brainwaves. It's got to be reading your brainwaves, but that is insanity. I'm so impressed. This one, I was like, holy bejesus. And it will also, if you want to go to the part where it's one guy speaking in English, the other guy speaking in Chinese, but they can speak to each other. That is amazing.
Here it is.
So again, bad TV because he's just thinking, but the words are appearing, and then you're going to hear it in Chinese. So first the guy's thinking in English, it then translates it into Chinese and speaks it in Chinese, and then the other guy's doing the same. That is wild, dude. How is it getting your words? Okay, now the cables that are running off the back of their head, that's obviously going to like some giant supercomputer or something. So they're not showing it for a reason. But this one I'm over the moon about. I want to see where this goes. If there was a version of this available for sale, I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I think one part that we didn't show was that there's things where he said there's times where you want to write something down, but you can't talk, you can't grab your phone. So he says, take a note that I need to go do my laundry later, whatever it is like that. Then he picks up his phone and then it
look, I mean, none of that is like a big deal right now. I think that for that kind of use case, you're never going to be like, I wish I could be tethered to a big box that I'm hiding behind the couch right now. That would be so convenient. Like, we're not at the convenience stage. This is just showing you what is possible. But dude, the fact that you could have a conversation with somebody without making noise, if they're just receiving it and no one can hear it, you're literally using telepathy. Like, this is not like telepathy. This is telepathy. This is mental telepathy. This is insane, dude. Okay, so when I was watching this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is how it starts. You start getting things in AI where I've always said, when I start talking about AI, think of me like a sci-fi writer. I'm imagining what could be, not what necessarily is or will be. And so I know that I'm directionally correct at best, and the things that I'm saying are not literally true. We are now seeing that wave of things that are literally true. So this is never going backwards. This is only going to get better. And so eventually you're going to have like either just like a little device that plugs into your ear. It will be something very subtle, and you're going to be able to communicate with people in thought in any language in real time. And it will get to the point where it's so fast, there's no delay. Like, dude, when just extrapolate this stuff a little bit, and this gets incredible. The world is going to be unrecognizable. And I know that makes a lot of people very scared, but the world is going to be unrecognizable. And there's going to be so many cool things that come out of this. So yeah, this one I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how fast we've got here. This is awesome.
Yeah. It seems like it's a breakthrough. I'm trying to guess, see what the application of it would be. Because to me, like the AirPods 3 with the live translation, I think that's the one that a lot of people have been waiting for. Like, everybody loves Duolingo. Nobody has learned a language yet. I think we need to start figuring out how we can minimize those borders and talk to people internationally. Like, I love that. So with this, if we get to that application, it's cool. But to your point, it seems like they're tethered to something. We don't see what that is yet. There is some comments in the tweet post itself that you have to say the words in your mouth, move your tongue. So it's not like you could just think it, but you almost have to like sound it out silently or something like that, so they can kind of cross-reference it. So it's not
that makes more sense in terms of how it would be able to track it. But I don't see, there's nothing on their throat. So what is it doing? Yeah. I'll be very curious to see how it's picking up those signals as we go broader. But in terms of where does this go from here, the ability to speak to somebody without making sound is, from where I'm sitting, self-evidently awesome. So whether that's wanting to be able to communicate privately to your wife, in my case, that would be amazing. To be in a crowded room where it's too noisy and now you can just talk to somebody, that would be amazing. Whether you just want to have a private conversation with anybody and you just don't want other people listening in, that would be amazing. Whether it's just talking to your device and not wanting to make noise because there's people around, it's super weird. That would be amazing. So and those are just the things we can think of right now. I did not think of Uber. When cell phones came out, it did not occur to me, oh, drivers will all have these, people wanting a car will all have these, and with software, we can link them up. So I don't yet know what people are going to create. Are we going to talk about Sadia?
Yeah.
This is wild. We'll get there in a second. Teaser. Weird week for former guests of Impact Theory. Yes. We're here for it. So the things that are going to be created will have these second and third order consequences of things that will become possible that aren't possible today. And if you're like me and future facing stuff gets you excited because you're like, I don't even know what people will create.
Yeah.
It won't just be the things we can think of. It'll be those things, right? So I just did like a however many city tour on my vacation. And first of all, speak for yourself. I have learned Greek. It was wonderful being there.
On Duolingo?
No. Technically, very little on Duolingo. That admittedly is just vocabulary. But being able to speak another language is awesome. It reinvigorated my desire to really master the language because that I have not done. But the ability to speak seamlessly with all of the people in the different countries would have been really cool. Really cool. And things like this are, I mean, they're near future. It's wild.
Okay. I want to kind of set some mile markers in here. To your point, there's been a wild week of former IT guests. A lot of these people, we have platform and things like that. So I want to kind of take it in two slices. The first slice is just kind of setting the standard. So last week, for those catching up, Sadia Khan apparently has been outed as being a side chick. Text messages were leaked. People
audio
recordings, critiques about her credentials. She still denies it. There has been speculation that it's fabricated, it's false, it's a hit attack. Some people have said AI. So who knows? Maybe she has an AI attack on her. So all this is alleged. At the same time, on the other side, David Goggins, who's had a tumultuous relationship with his daughter, similar in the fashion of like Destiny, where there's a kid is kind of coming out on Twitter and TikTok, kind of releasing it out. So just from that standpoint,
put on blast by your own kids, man.
Crazy.
That
Crazy.
is a betrayal. I get their kids.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time with that, Drew.
That's a rough one.
Hard time.
That's a rough one for me. So I just kind of want a level set of like, how do you approach it when business relationship, contacts, people in your real life, you start to see chinks in their armor. Now, when they're with you, they're pleasant. Everything they say sounds correct, and you haven't seen any reason why any of this is true. But then when the internet kind of turns and does all these things, how do you think people should kind of navigate those type of moments?
Okay, I love this question.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a different realm for friends and family, people for whom you have deep love and affection. And so if they're unhinged in moments, but you have so much history with them, you know they're a good person, whatever, then I can see defending them to the ends of the earth. Not saying they're infallible or anything. None of us are infallible. But like take my wife, for instance. If my wife did something stupid, I'm still literally going to defend her. If it costs me my business, everything, don't give a fuck. Like, my wife can count on me, ride or die. I'm here with you. If you do something stupid and it takes us both down, I still love you. I'm still with you. I mean, obviously, if she kills somebody or something like that, there are lines. But like within the realm of like normal shit, she says something horrible and it burns our company to the ground. I'm not going to separate from my wife and be like, that was brutal, but we're in it together. We say a phrase to each other, sink or swim, we go together. Cool. So I'm going to honor that. My brother-in-law, who I consider my best friend, just a wonderful human, love him to death. If he did something stupid, same thing. Am I going to burn my business to the ground? Probably not. But I'm going to be like, listen, this is my man. I love him. I've known him for a very long time. Yes, what he said was way out of pocket or whatever. Disgusting belief. Don't like that. I still love this guy. I'm not abandoning him. You all can fuck off. 100%. David Goggins. If it comes out that David Goggins is a bad person, then my take, and I don't think that this is going to be very popular, but my take is going to be his advice is so good. And I'm so grateful to him for that advice. I'm sad that there's a part of his life that he's not in control of. I'm sad that he's broken bad on this thing. But I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if you're expecting me to spend a whole lot of time condemning him, not going to do it. I'm going to isolate the things that I think are powerful. And please keep in mind that I haven't even seen the thing that his daughter posted. So I don't know. I'm just saying, theoretically, if I could be convinced that he was a terrible father, I'm still going to be like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Don't take fathering advice from him. But over here, he's done this extraordinary thing. And there's a lot to learn from that. There's a lot to be inspired from that. And so I don't need somebody to be perfect in every area of their life for them to inspire me with something or to have a useful piece of information. I am a collector of that which is high utility. And his mindset stuff is psychotically high utility. Like, holy Jesus. Like, it's amazing. So people that are looking for reasons to dismiss people, I just don't understand that. I don't interface with the world like that. So I'm looking for, what does that person have to offer me? Do they have a high utility thing? Even if they're psychotic, if they have one narrow thing that I can use, I'm going to use that thing. And I'm not going to say, well, I'm never going to do that because he did that and he's a terrible person. I just do not filter the world like that. So I will say for Sadia Khan, interviewed her twice, I think.
Yeah.
She could not be more lovely in person. Now, we all have gears. So she may have a full bitch gear. Cool. I never saw it. So in person, she was lovely. And so I would honor that. Every interaction I've had with her was wonderful. She has extremely high utility advice around relationships. Whether she's taking her own advice, I have no idea. But as somebody who has been now in a highly successful, productive relationship for more than 20 years, I can just tell you, yeah, she's got really good advice. So do I care whether or not she has a degree? I literally couldn't care less. Do I think it is wise of her to lie? No, I do not. So if she's lying about her credentials, she's just creating a weak point for herself. That's just like not smart. Yeah. So for instance, I will often tell my story like in a really condensed way. And so for years now, I have said, call it 1 out of 10 times. 1 out of 10 times I'll go, listen, this is like the mythologized version of my story to make it tight, compact, punchy. The reality was fucking messy. And like some of the timeline stuff's actually out of order. And so whatever, I can walk you through like the really boring like version, or I can give you the condensed punchy version. So things like that, part of the reason I've always said like, hey, look, there's the sort of long drawn out like ups and downs of my life. I don't often go into all the beats of that, but I've been saying it for a long time. So I can point back to people and say, look, I was never trying to trick anybody, but giving people a condensed version is easy. Faking a degree,
that's
no bueno. It's just like you're giving people a reason to be like, she's just fake. I would advise people to look at the advice, see if the advice has utility, thinking up from first principles. If you can see where she's intersecting with like reality, then it's like, oh, cool. She gave me a thing that I can use. That's how I look at all this stuff. I don't hire people based on resumes. I don't take advice based on resumes. And if somebody has good advice, but they don't use it in their own life, it's like, well, that's weird. I don't know why they're not taking their own advice because I'm actively using it and it's fucking dope. So yeah, from that perspective, I don't care.
Okay, I got to push back a little bit
Yeah,
because I remember there's this Kanye line, you don't take advice from people that you don't want to be. So there is a certain...
So better to say in that aspect of their life, if Kanye gives me advice on music or marketing, I'm going to take that advice. If Kanye gives me advice on manic episodes, staying on your medication, being anti-Semitic, how far you can push it.
He's an expert on those things as well.
He is, but like the consequences have been like things I'm not interested in. So I'm not here for that. So it's like he is the classic case from my perspective of flying too close to the sun. He got to the point where he really believed, like, look, I can say whatever the fuck I want about Jews because I'm a billionaire and all this. And it's like, no, you couldn't. So it's like, ooh, learned that lesson. But like, I also learned a lesson from him about getting taken seriously as a rapper when you're a producer and how hard that was for him and how persistent he had to be and how much he had to believe in himself. So I'm like, oh, cool. Lesson learned, very powerful. And look, I was never consciously thinking of Kanye, but if people watch my arc now, I've been on camera for 10 years. If you watch my arc, you can watch me for years trying to find my voice and figure out how to be on camera. And like even my early days of streaming, when I was streaming to 7 people, literally 7 people. And this was only like 2 years ago, okay? This is not a long time ago. I was streaming to 7 people. I had 4 million subscribers. I was streaming to 7 people. Shout out if any of those OG7 are here from my Twitch days. But like I had to have some Kanye in me, right? I had to be like, no, I can get good at this. I can convince people that I'm worth paying attention to. I can get better, right? And so you have to have that delusional belief in yourself. But then I also clock, be careful because you can get so high on your own self-belief that you crash. So it's like Michael Jordan being the best, what that takes, what that costs, how hard you have to push. Cool. I am convinced, I could be wrong, I don't know for sure. I think he's an alcoholic. So it's like, there's a demon that he has inside of himself that he's needing to soothe in some way. And so I'm like, okay, like you can push that too far. It can be too all-consuming. I need to be able to step into that frame of reference, but also step back out. I need to be able to check in with my mental health. Do I still like my life? And so it's like, I'm still going to learn from him, whether he has demons or not. He was the greatest to ever do it. Like there's so much to learn from that. So I don't take people in totality, I guess is my punchline.
Got you. Okay, so that's what I'm hearing is that although, because I've been preaching, shout out to them. This is actually like investigative journalism. It was a pretty good video for, we could drop it in the chat or something for people who want to check it out.
Yeah, these guys, not just them, but there's like CoffeeZillas, these guys in this, like there's a whole content creator archetype of like, I'm the new sort of journalist. It's wild. Like,
but the fact that all that happened and then they interviewed her and then they were bouncing against receipts. It was just a well put together video. But one of the points that they made, and I'm taking it 100% from them, is that Matthew Hussey, he's been on the show too, friend of the show. He doesn't come out like I'm a clinical psychologist. I can tell you why. He's just saying, hey, I know how to make relationships work. I know how to make that person fall in love with you. So is there something to you lied when you quote unquote didn't need to? Because again, Saudi is a YouTuber. She's on the media circuit. She didn't necessarily need the degree to do that. But then
I'll need more info because one, it's like I can answer it as a hypothetical. So if I'm writing her as a character and I need her to make sense with what I know about humans, and she lied, because I don't know that she did, but let's say that she lied, she faked her degree, what would need to be true? I'm going to guess something in her early stages, she needed that to be taken seriously. Then once she cracked a certain level, it was just like the momentum of the story was there and she couldn't like back out of it easily. So she just like kept going. So I get that because I had to make a decision early in my career. Like, am I going to try to be cool or am I going to admit I'm not cool? And I finally just had to admit I'm not cool. I'm not a cool person. And so any sort of posturing around being cool creates a weakness for me because now I've got to keep up like this appearance of like being cool and all that. So it's like you've got to find a way to make your story work for you, but also be grounded in reality. So I'm for sure telling a narrative about my story, about how I came up and all that. It's real, but it's also like, well, I don't talk about certain moments that are like really lame. So for instance, when I went in and quit at Awareness Technologies, that was a shameful moment. But when I tell the story, I'm like, hey, I went in and quit. That's the thing that ends up giving birth to Quest. That's true. But when I go in and quit, I'm having all this emotional trauma over like, I'm breaking a brotherhood and like, I'm sort of emotionally tapped out. I just can't do it anymore. I'm so unhappy. So there was nothing like cool or bold. Like you could say that a willingness to go be poor was quote unquote brave, but it was like in the moment, I was just ashamed of myself. My wife was like, listen, you're damaging the marriage. And I promised myself I'd never do that. But like, if you were to fMRI me in that moment, I'm not some stud who's like, oh, fuck, I got this and I know how to move through my life. I'm fucking terrified. And I'm like, I'm unhappy. I'm fucking up my marriage. So I've got to do something differently. It ends up yielding something good. But in that moment, it's not cool. It's not me being amazing. It's me like broken, traumatized, like feeling like, oh man, like, I hate that I'm doing this. I hate that I'm leaving these guys. So anyway, but when I tell the story, it's the upbeat version. It's still true, but it's like you pick and choose the things that you say. So all of life is a narrative, just to remind everybody.
Got it. Okay. You can separate the artist and the
Anthony.
art. I'll put it that way.
Yes. And because this isn't really an art thing for me.
Well, yeah, just
here's how I think of this. You really can get better. Most people don't, but you really can. To get better, you have to collect ideas that have high utility. Oftentimes, the messenger, we're all flawed. Every messenger you've ever encountered, including Nelson Mandela, is flawed. Nelson's marriage was terrible. Martin Luther King Jr. cheated on his wife. And yet, I'm okay. Got it. We're all flawed. cool? Did they have something high utility that I can learn from? Did, in the case of both of those guys, did they pay a price that I would be unwilling to pay to help lead other people? Yes. Does evolution leverage ego to get people to do things? Yes. So will ego manifest in weird other ways? Yes. But do we get positive things from those people? Yes. Are we all products of our time? Yes. So I just say, be a collector of ideas that when you implement them in your belief stack, the things you repeat to yourself, that they make your life better, regardless of whether that person had elements of their life that were just terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, heard. All right, I want to jump over to this NBC News poll that they polled Gen Z, men who voted for Trump, women who voted for Trump, women who voted for Harris, men who voted for Harris. And then they rank ordered what they put in order of priority. And it's the important to define your personal definition of success.
Would you think less of me if I told you reading this made me cry?
More. I need more. Like, say more words.
No, those are all the words you're going to get. Yeah, Mason just laughed. So Mason, would it make you think less of me if I said reading this made me cry?
No.
Okay.
Your voice went up a little bit. Your voice did a little thing.
It's like, probably not.
It's a leading question. Maybe somewhere with that. But,
so I didn't cry, but this really made me sad because what you're looking at is a whole, we're all trapped in a frame of reference, but these are so divergent, the frames of reference, that I don't know when men and women are going to come back together.
Ooh.
And so I look at this and I say, okay, what's the best thing that ever happened to me? My marriage. Now, being married to my wife is at times hard. Being married to me is at times hard. And I always warn people that apply here that are familiar with my content. You guys will be intimately familiar with this. Working with me is very different than watching my content. I'm obsessive. I work around the clock. I want things to be done a certain way. I'm very forceful, yada, yada, yada. But so my wife has to deal with all of that, right? You guys at least get to go home. My wife doesn't get to go home. So she has to deal with it in the business and outside of the business. Perimenopause is not for the faint of heart. Yeah. So being married to my wife, going through perimenopause is difficult. But when I ask, what's the greatest thing that ever happened to me? I'm like, holy shit, being married to my wife. And when I read this, I think, yo, if I had come up in this era where women are seen as the enemy, because one of the people that was with us on this trip has a very antagonistic view of women. So I just got to spend a lot of time around somebody who I love, but they have a very antagonistic view of women. And I weep, and I don't know how to talk him out of that frame of reference. But being in that frame of reference, you will see them. If you look for evidence that men are the enemy, you will find it. If you look for evidence that women are the enemy, you will find it. But if you look for evidence that you can be awesome partners, you will find it. And so when I was going through this, I was like, yo, this is a populist moment put into individual desires, and they are so far apart from each other that it's not going to end well.
All right, let's jump through the actual survey results so people can check this out. So men who voted for Trump, the top 3 things that they cared about was having children, financial independence, and a fulfilling job and career. Women who voted for Harris, their top 3 things they cared about was a fulfilling job and career, having money to do things you want, and having emotional stability. The damning thing is having children was at the bottom of that list. And then when we jump over to women who voted for Trump and men who voted for Harris to say,
Eric,
okay, maybe we can
sorry,
line
really
it up.
fast. Eric, can you grab me a charging cable, please?
It's still on my desk. I didn't bring it over. And then now when we jump it over to women who voted for Trump, men who voted for Harris, they're still not really lining up. The top 3 things for women who voted for Trump: financial independence, fulfilling job and career, owning their own home. The top 3 things for men who voted for Harris.
Really fast before you move on to the men who voted for Harris. What's really sad is that the women who voted for Trump don't line up with the men who voted for Trump.
Yeah.
So now you've got the same theoretical value system through one lens of it, of who they vote for. But men and women still have like a big divide. So if number one was women who voted for Trump want to have families, then it'd be like, okay, men who voted for Trump want to have families, women who voted for Trump want to have families.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, it's down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positions.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
The thing that's jumping out to me, though, is that the top 3 of all of these lists, no matter who you voted for, it's fulfilling job and career, financial independence, having money to do things.
Thank you.
So it seems like this populist moment is driven by our economy or lack thereof, lack of access to economics on both lists.
Anytime I hear somebody talking about anything other than inflation, I want to scream into the void.
Yeah.
Because it's like we have our finger on the problem and we don't have our finger on the cure. So, and look, it is oversimplified to say it's just about inflation, but it's like inflation is 70% of your problem. So everything else is crammed into the 30%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
And I think something very interesting, I stole this tweet from Kang Min Lee, that it's no longer men who are afraid to have children or don't want to have children. It seems like women are the ones choosing not to have kids. And with our
keeping in mind that's people who voted for Trump.
Yeah, according to
so that's whatever small percentage. So yes, I think what men are realizing is the very things that men are incentivized to pursue are answered with a family, and men have had very powerful voices in recent years that are just family, 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 family. Religion, family, 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 family. So men are because men no longer have access to sex, they are searching for something, and they're being driven into the arms of religion for a whole host of reasons. That then points back at family. The sort of hyper masculine people are pointing them at family. So by the way, I point people at family and I don't have a family, but my default, my wife would hate to hear me say that, I don't have kids. My default answer is that if you want to have a fulfilled life as a male, like number one would be to have kids for sure, because men need to provide, they need meaning and purpose, and you hope that you can get some of that from your job, but being able to be the alpha in a situation, having kids, the ability to be the king of the castle, to have things your way, having a family, the just progeny in general, that there's an algorithm running in your brain that wants you to have kids. That's obviously for both men and women, but all of those things, like feeling like you're sacrificing for a reason, that you're passing on your genes, that you're able to run a household in the way that you want to do it. So you might be told what to do at work, but not when you get home. And so all of those things add up to, like, if you want to live a fulfilled life as the default path, it's not the only path. Obviously, I have a very fulfilled life and I don't have kids, but I feel like I've had to really be conscious about having a fulfilled life without having kids. So I think that we're going to see a massive resurgence on that faster for men, because men's options in the sexual market are going down. Women's options in the financial and sexual market are widening. And so for sure, at least for a while, women are going to be like, this is dope. I get all the choice in the world. I don't want to be told what to do. And so, yeah, it is going to keep driving people apart. And that scares me.
I don't even know where to start, though. How do we heal this divide? Because if people are now financially stable, will we then run back into kids and family, and would that be it? Like,
Drew, how traumatizing will it be if I say, we're never going to heal this divide? We're going to go into AI relationships.
Sheesh. Pack it up. It's done. Put it in rice.
No, I don't think you should bet on the future like that. I think you should assume that I'm wrong about that. And because the only thing that we know is real is evolution. And so this is just like investing. And when people go, oh, it's just about UBI, it's like those are people that are throwing up their hands who are acting as if AI has already done the thing. While I think AI is going to do the thing, you cannot act like AI is going to drive energy costs to zero and all that right now today. You've got to assume the world's going to keep being like it's going to be. At least some percentage of your time, energy, financial structure, all of that needs to assume this world continues on, that we hit some sort of asymptote and it doesn't keep growing. You just, some very meaningful, call it 30, 40% of your strategy from a live my life, invest, all of that needs to be like, it's just going to be more or less like this. Better technology, things like that, but more or less like this forever. I think people should assume that they need to reconcile with the opposite sex. I think people should ask themselves, hey, what are the things that I have easy access to that I should deny myself, and start denying themselves that. So here's the thing. Dear boys and girls, I love you all. I really, really I have a default love for humanity, but I'm just going to tell you one of the most important things that you could do for yourself is come to the very powerful realization that if you're fat, it is what you're eating. There's nothing else. There's no, but I have a genetic disorder. Yeah, heard. My wife has a far easier time staying lean than I do. It doesn't matter. I've got to do the things that I need to do, and it's very simple. It's all 100% of it comes down to what I choose to chew and swallow. Period. End of story. And so once you understand, oh, cool, I need to take responsibility for that thing, like all of a sudden everything in your life gets better. First, address the needs of the body, then you can address the needs of the mind. All of that stuff becomes incredibly important to reconcile with so that you can get control of your life. And as you begin taking control of your life, then you can make other parts of your life better. But it really does come from taking that massive responsibility, first and foremost.
I don't know if we have that capacity, though. Like,
all humans do not.
Yeah, like
and this comes back to, I know people hate it when I say it, but unfortunately, people, if you don't meet minimum requirements intellectually, it just becomes too difficult. And here's the thing, we are automata. There are people in my life that I love that are intelligent, but they don't have discipline. So think of yourself as a character in a video game. You have a skill tree. And if you have intelligence very high, but your discipline skill level is super low, doesn't matter how smart you are. If you know what to do, but can't get yourself to do it, and I don't pass any moral judgment. I am an automata. I have not earned the things that I have. Now, I don't think of myself like that because it is not it's low utility belief. So even though it's true, it's low utility, I don't spend a lot of time there because you can improve. But yeah, if somebody just doesn't have the receptors for, I don't even know what neurochemical cocktail it would be that makes you disciplined, but whatever it is, if you don't have it, and trust me, there are people in my life that really don't, you're going to suffer forever.
Okay, I want to do a poll. Help me out if you don't mind, Mason. I want the poll to be, would you rather have a good partner that's a human or a perfect partner that's a robot?
I'll cast my vote once people have cast theirs, but I have a very aggressive answer.
A very aggressive answer. Okay. Because I do agree that men and women divide is getting bigger, not worse. Literally, there was this girl that I had a crush on. Super cute. We went on a couple of dates. It was always like timing. She's super busy. She travels all the time. So it's one of those things that like, I'm in the city, but you're gone. I'm here now, you're gone. Summertime, I'm never in LA. So like we just two ships passing in the night. And I remember like one time she tweeted like, I love my space. And I think that it's because it's a male free zone. Like men aren't welcome in my space. Like something crazy like that. And I'm just like, yo, you actually don't like men, like you don't like men themselves. So it's like we have great conversations when we get together. It's all love and all these other things. But like your concept of just men is tainted, even though you seek a male in the relationship type thing. Yeah. So I think that stuff like that is happening on both sides. There's men who want a wife but they hate women. Like I've heard that before, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. But now that I'm kind of in the underbelly of the internet, I'm like, oh, okay, you like the idea of a mom that you sleep with, but you don't actually want somebody with autonomy.
I hated that sentence.
No, but like you want somebody to take care of you and all these other things and then have sex, give you sex. Yeah. But you don't want any of the accountability or something like that it comes from. So I'm seeing a lot of those things clearly than I did in the past. So my optimism is waning. And then when we go to this list from the NBC poll, the NBC survey, I was like, okay, this is actually that fear on paper, because it doesn't matter if you're a Trump voter, you're a Harris voter, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. Our values are just in different corners. So I'm curious if people are just going to say, well, I'm too over here in this corner, so let me just get my AI partner and chill, or am I willing to make those compromises and meet somewhere in the middle and be
some will
moderate?
Listen, so hopefully, I don't know if we actually put a live poll or not, but people have had their chance to vote. So I think, again, going back to this idea, the future is uncertain. So people holding out for AI, I think, is the wrong move. I think what we know is that relationships with humans, when done well, are the most gratifying, incredible thing that you can be a part of. They are very difficult. There's no doubt. You can choose poorly and it will make your life worse. There is no doubt. But when you do it well, it is extraordinary. And I think that there are certain skills that are only unlocked when you're in a deep romantic partnership. And by the way, like if you, gay or not, doesn't matter to me at all. I've seen incredibly beautiful gay relationships. So I'm here for that. I'm always going to default to what I consider the fastball down the middle from an evolutionary perspective, which is men and women, but high functioning relationship, whatever flavor that comes in for you, where you're pushing each other, making each other better. Just like when social media first came out, I would not have told you it was going to create a crisis in all ages, but certainly young people. And so I don't know what the crisis is that AI relationships is going to bring in the beginning, but there will be a generation that will get eaten alive by some misunderstanding, some way. Either maybe AI becomes the ultimate significant other down the road, but you realize that they need to push back on you and not agree with you all the time, not overhype you. And so we tune it wrong. And we've got like people that are married to a sycophant version that's like a mirror version of themselves. Anyway, whatever. So I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I would highly encourage people to focus on real humans for now, even though I believe down the road that AI will play a distressingly large role in our lives.
Okay, the poll gave me hope just now.
Let's go. People voting for humans?
Yeah, so far it's 91
See.
Good human partner, 9%
go.
AI partner. Okay, so all right, you guys, you didn't get black pill too much. All right, more React stuff. There's been a lot of funny things happening. I want to keep in the relationship tender. This made me laugh out loud. I've gotten mixed reviews that this might have been fake. I don't know if you've seen this.
Not.
When your ex is destroying your car for accepting a date, but you're just a chill dude that doesn't know how to say no. No way. And then meanwhile, his girlfriend's crashing out, spray painted cheater on his car, and he's eating nachos.
Sorry, my ex.
So, first of all, modern skits are hilarious because they're doing everything they can to seem real. So if this is a skit, what would I actually do in this position? Yeah, I mean, at this point, depending on when you came out, like,
I just got it.
The damage is done. Yeah. So getting in there and being physical with her is not the play.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he's joking makes this feel like a skit.
It's really good.
Now we're officially in skit territory. But being chill. So I think this is something that is really undervalued. So this is one thing that I think Lisa and I got a very potent reminder of over this vacation, that she and I respond to stress, difficulty, whatever the right word is, very differently. So when she gets stressed, like it overwhelms her and the system sort of shuts down, but it makes her like almost want to be more aggressive. Whereas when something really stressful is happening, I get a sense of like laser focused on solution. The problem being that I'm very relaxed. I'm not getting overwhelmed. I'm super chill, but I'm also all of the like normal pleasantries. I just don't have time for. I'm like, we need to do this. We need to go here, do this thing. And in the moment, I can tell it really winds her up. But then once it's done and it's like, okay, we got here, all's well. She's like, I'm so glad that you don't get frazzled, that you don't stress out. Like when the fire came last year, and she was legit an 11 on the panic scale. And the very fact that I kept saying to her, the only thing that will make this worse is panicking. I see the fire. Yes, it's coming. We're going to move with urgency, but we're not going to panic. And she was yelling, you got to move faster. And so I was like, hold on, like, let's go slow. Like, we're going to be fine. And so anyway, we end up getting out just fine. But I think valuing men for being able to be stoic, people celebrating that is a high utility behavior, to not get sucked into the emotion, to not freak out, to Try to be outside of it. Ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve here? Because you do, like, there are times where you need to move with urgency. There is no doubt. But if you come out, somebody's already spray painted cheater on your car, they're on top of it and they're smashing your window. Like, the fact that they're going to do more damage unless you physically restrain them, don't physically restrain them, because now just play out where that goes. Yeah. Now it's assault on your part. Now you're going to jail. Now it's the two of you. It's like, you got to let it play out the way that it's going to play out. It's like that. I love that diagram that is like, okay, the thing that is happening, is it something that you can control? Yes. Don't stress, because there's something you can do about it. Yeah. Is the thing happening something you can do about? No. Then don't stress, because there's nothing you can do about it. So it's like, if there's something you can do, then go do it. Mm-hmm. If there's nothing you can do, then there's nothing you can do. Either way, getting stressed, rationing up doesn't make sense. And at some point we started saying, oh, this is men just like stuffing their emotions down. That is dumb. Like, being able to control your emotions is like God tier. Mm-hmm. So I want to see more people like strive to be S tier with the ability to control their emotions. And for some reason, like, we've rejected that. It's super weird to me.
Yeah, I had a similar experience with Lynn over this weekend. Long story short, like, her ex-boyfriend, and I'm using air quotes because yuck, he was on like Instagram posting a bunch of stuff about her, about like, oh, my ex still wants me and I let her go because she cheated on me and all these other things. And she's like pacing in the kitchen. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, he keeps crashing out. He made like 3 fake accounts, was sending her like requests, trying to like get back into her feed. She like blocked them on one. And then I'm like, okay, like, I understand you're stressed out, because she's like, this was her string of logic. He keeps doing it. People in her school are going to see it. Then they're going to like whisper about it. Then it's going to be a big thing at her school. And then she's going to be nervous about it like that. And I'm looking at her. I'm like, I understand what you said. Like, I get where you're coming from, but like, you have 2 options, right? You can get on Instagram, crash out with them, and now you guys are arguing. And then now your current crush who you like is going to check Instagram, see you guys going back and forth, throwing subliminals, and be like, oh, they are crazy, and walk away. Or you could just ignore it. And then somebody's going to bring it up to you like, hey, you know, this guy's been talking about you for the last 2 weeks and he's posting these things and saying all these things. And then now you can kind of laugh, and now you're you're in a power position to then like address that conversation. Mm-hmm. And then, but it's like, in that moment, everything's on fire. I got to do something. I need to just react. I can't like think through like second, third, fourth order consequences. So I understand that a lot of times people get too caught up in their current emotions. They stop seeing long-term in the whole thing. So I had to kind of turn off the ledge. Like, it's okay. It's fine. Like, just chill, put your phone down. Don't even think about it. And then I talked to her last night and she was like, oh, I was like, yeah, did that situation bubble? Like, is he still doing it? She's like, oh, I haven't even unblocked all the stuff. I don't even remember. And I'm like, that's the perfect thing. Keep your mental sanity. Yeah. Like, don't even trip over that. So, you know, there's that 2 way of kind of reacting to it.
Emotional stability. That was the one thing I will say, that seeing people rate emotional stability high, I was very encouraged by that.
It was good.
But yeah, that will serve you well in all aspects. Now, one thing, I don't know if you have something that you really want to get to, but I want to look at the PBD debate with Jubilee. Do we think that will get shut down? There's no music that I know of.
Yes, we can talk over it. Let me pull a clip. Set me up while I pull up the clip.
Okay, so Patrick Bet-David went on Jubilee. It was 1 capitalist versus 20 anti-capitalists. And I am very eager to finish it. But the part that I watched, so I've watched the first half, and what I saw were young people that were very articulate about the things that bother them about capitalism. So it was a very useful insight into the people that I consider the sort of enemy of the public good, how they're approaching it, what their thought is, what are the things that are triggering them, so that I can make sure that like I'm engaging with people where they're at. Because Gary's economics really had a big impact on me in terms of like watching him be very emotionally eloquent, but completely ignorant to the real solutions. So he understands how to make money off of it, but he doesn't seem to understand why it's happening. And so that was a very interesting phenomenon, or is a very interesting phenomenon for me, where he's really captured the emotional tenor of this moment, but I think is going to lead people astray because he's feeding into their emotions. So anyway, this was people, I didn't feel like the anti-capitalists for the most part were in their feels. Like, they were really walking through like, here are all the problems. They just don't have solutions. And they have like these really delusional views of socialism. Anyway, so this is where it was. Now, I love Patrick Bet-David. Talk about somebody who has been very kind to me every time I've interacted with him. I think he's very smart. He is a very talented entrepreneur. But, and by the way, I think I'm a terrible debater. Let me throw that out there. But I don't feel like his debate prowess was where I'd be curious to see like what he thinks. If he walked away from that going, no, I smashed it. Or if he's like, I wish I had said this, that, or the other. Yeah. Anyway, let's play it so people can see it for themselves.
On your resume,
It says that.
What do you have on your resume? Skill set, what do you offer?
Transportation expertise, logistics expertise.
Where are you starting?
You consider yourself a hard worker.
This from this specific one was that he said he applied to 477 companies. He got rejected. That's one of the reasons why capitalism.
Go to the full interview on YouTube and just pull up the very beginning, because that's where you hear him make his claim and then people sit down. And the first claim that he makes is very important, which, oh God, what is the claim? We'll have to let him say it. I forget the exact nuance of it.
This is not the United States of Patrick Bet David. This is the United States of America.
Would you take money from a capitalist to help you go see specialists?
I mean, yeah, sure, why
I'd
not?
skip this
But would
because
you
this
also
has
be-
music, and music is where you get yourself into trouble. We want to get to his first claim. Okay, so there it is.
Capitalist. My first claim is incentive is the engine of capitalism. Remove it and the system fails.
Okay, so
Do you agree with that claim?
yeah, obviously.
Hey, great to meet you, Patrick.
What's your name?
My name's Mason.
Mason, good to meet you.
Yeah.
Mason.
I'm valuetained. I'm a big fan of the channel.
Are you
So,
really?
yeah, I do
Oh, that's
watch
good
it
to
quite
hear.
regularly.
Very cool.
I
do
found
not,
this very
agree.
interesting that Homeboy is actually, I mean, if he can be believed, a fan of valuetainment. But he's going to make some pretty interesting arguments.
With your claim, I don't think that incentives are only born out of capitalism. Most capitalist defenders say
Capitalism, incentives are not born of capitalism. This is like my big thing. This is what I think people miss about socialism. Socialism is out of step with the human mind, with our psychology. That's why it doesn't work. Capitalism is simply more in step. And I think it is right to say that capitalism is a terrible system. It's just the best of the terrible systems. We just haven't found anything that's better yet. It's not like capitalism is some amazing godsend and it can never be better, but we've had a lot of years to find something better and we haven't. So anyway, that's a misspeak. This is the kind of thing that I would want PBD to pick up on and say, well, hold on a second. That wasn't my claim. I'm not saying that capitalism gives birth to our desire for incentives. I'm saying our desire for incentives needs to match the economic system, and the economic system that most closely matches our innate desire for fairness, our innate desire for compensation is going to be capitalism. Then it's like he could keep reorienting to like what the argument is. You're going to see very quickly it spirals off.
say that incentive is because of scarcity, and people's ability to get what is necessary pushes them to work harder. I disagree.
Okay, pause it for a second. So this is one of the things that ends up being like the big argument that comes up over and over, and we will run out of time before we get to see the pattern emerge. But one of the patterns that emerges is everybody saying, well, people shouldn't have to work. Like there shouldn't be scarcity. Like there should just be like a base level that's taken care of for everybody. And that should have been where PBD just said, pause, hold on. I love that. That's an emotional argument, because who exactly is going to work for free to provide for everybody else? This is the fundamental thing that people do not understand. Mm-hmm. The only way to get something for free is to make somebody work for free. Who are the people that you're going to point to and say, you are going to work for free? You're going to work for free for this many months, and that way we can give all this free stuff to people. That's where people, it is like they think that the government can just make money. And they don't realize that when the government, quote unquote, makes money, what they're doing is devaluing everybody else's money. And the only thing that actually creates money is entrepreneurship, because you're creating something of value that people say, oh, I want that thing. And so I'm going to take this, what we call proof of work. Mm-hmm. We call money, dollars, whatever, but that's your proof of work. You did a thing. And so people gave you money for that. So you lock in the value of your time through the compensation that you got for doing that thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you my proof of work for this thing that you've created. That's the engine of all this. And then the government goes, cool, I'm going to take a little bit of your piece of work, proof of work, either at the income level, or you can do it at the purchase level, whatever. all kinds of places that it can happen.
Yeah.
But like, I'm going to take some of your proof of work and I'm going to then hand it out to people in whatever way, building roads, schools, Social Security, whatever. But there seems to be a fundamental lack of understanding that that's how this engine gets going. And so I just need to know, like, okay, if you want to say people should be guaranteed this, who's supposed to work for free?
That I'd say that some of our hardest workers are single moms working 3 to 4 jobs, and the resources that they're able to acquire compared to those that utilize their workers in order to build profit for their own companies is not equivocal.
So how would you do it? How would you change it?
Yeah, so I think that humans inherently want to be meaningful. They want to contribute to their
Pause.
communities.
He's 100% correct. There are 5 things that motivate people in terms of work. Meaning is one of them. Purpose is one of them. So for sure, like none of that is fault. My furry children have entered the field of play here. So he's not wrong about that. But again, getting to the claim is that the engine that makes capitalism work is incentives. And so far, I'm not hearing him say that people don't respond to incentives. What I hear him say is it's not only incentives. He's right about that.
Yeah.
I don't think people will work just for money. I think that's the big thing that people are always confused by is, well, I just made all this money and I'm miserable. Yeah, exactly. Because there's 5 things that people care about, not 1.
They want to contribute to society. When you look at depression
True.
rates, oftentimes it's people who aren't able to do anything besides laying in their bed and basically barely taking care of themselves. So I think that it's just a human intrinsic value to want to bring value to their community or greater society.
Facts.
So I don't think that it has to be through scarcity alone that scares people into working, if that makes sense.
I worked for scarcity. I think there's levels to it. You have the survival folks who work for survival to pay their bills. Some work for status, some work for freedom, and some work for legacy. The folks that work 3 or 5 jobs, you know, to pay their bills and do what they're doing, if the incentive wasn't there, they wouldn't work 3 to 5 jobs. Some of the guys that build a bigger business that solve a lot of problems.
The incentive there is either I die or I work. That's not really a system that rewards
See, okay, so that is the argument you're going to hear over and over is I'm only working because I'm scared if I don't work that I'm going to starve to death. This is where you have to like hit the timeout. Heard, you said that earlier. What I would like to know is how do we remove that need? And they're going to say, well, the government should provide this. How? How does the government provide this? What the gap that people are unable to cross is the only way to give things to people for free is to have people work for free. Who is it that you want to work for free? Like you saying everybody works for free? Like what are we talking about here? So this is the place where this like just deranges and it drives me nuts. All right, keep going.
merit. That's a system that pushes people into insecure positions.
Not necessarily. In many cases, we put ourselves in situations.
I'm going to keep beating this drum. And by the way, Mason, if people are like pushing back on what I'm saying, I want to know about it because I want to address it. And we need more time.
They were pushing back earlier, but they're saying you're cooking now. So.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go. So rewind it, like give me 10 seconds back.
Either I die or I work. That's not really a system that rewards merit. That's a system that pushes people into insecure positions.
Not necessarily.
Okay. So it's pushing people into insecure positions. If you look back through all of human history, the reason that we created governments was we come together as a collective and we are much stronger than when we're apart. That people would roll up to our village, they would rape the women or just straight kidnap them. They would kill the men, steal the farm animals, whatever. Like they would just take what they could. And so we're like, okay, we've got to come together as a collective. We've got to build walls and we've got to do all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And what people realized was, okay, for us to scale, because you can be communist in a family, you can think about sort of collective action in a small group, but as you get bigger and bigger, you need some way to incentivize people to do like that specific thing, right? Like I get you don't want to build the wall. I get it. But we need somebody to build the wall. And so it happens to fit your skill set, whatever. And so people go, listen, you're not going to have to barter. And the economy is too complex for one person to say, you go do this, you go do that. And so from that emerges, I mean, technically you go through all kinds of horrible systems first that allow people to be abused, enslaved. Like it's not like we got right to capitalism, but like you get all these systems that emerge where people are trying to decentralize as much of it as possible. And capitalism is so far the best system that we've gotten to, where we go, okay, cool. Everything is decentralized. You get to charge whatever you can. There's going to be friction between you and the capital owner is going to try to pay you as little as they can, but you try to get so good that you can demand a lot of wages, but it's all decentralized. You only have to buy the things that you want, blah, blah, blah. Government comes in and says, okay, you can't be an asshole like that. Can't overwork kids. Workers will do their best to negotiate for a better position, all that. Of course, it can go pathological. I'm not saying that. I'm glad that there are government regulations. That can also go pathological.
Yeah.
Anyway, but once you understand, oh, this was a phenomenon that came from the bottom up. This has to do with specialization. This has to do with not wanting to barter. This has to do with people wanting autonomy. It's one of the 5 things that motivates people is I don't want you to be able to tell me what to do. This is the very thing that drives people crazy in work. This is why I know anybody that gets frustrated with me is because they just want to control more of their life. They don't want to do what I say. They also don't want to take responsibility for making payroll though. I'll tell you that. But so I get like all of the like difficulties and the frictions of all these different things. But like when you really start to say, okay, but what thing do you put in its place? Like I get it. It sucks that we all have like, you can legitimately starve to death. If you can't make enough money or get somebody to give you kindness, you can actually die. And for a long period of time, people literally just did die. And one of the reasons that churches come into existence is they go, cool, like we're the catch-all. We take care of people. We ask our people in the name of God to give a tithing, and then we use that tithing oftentimes to enrich ourselves. But when it's going well, we're also taking care of the poor. And so we had this communal area where we could catch people rather than trying to do everything at the level of government. But people aren't connecting those dots. All right, let's a little bit more.
Many cases, we put ourselves in situations as well. But when we're talking
are
incentive...
you saying that it's an individual failure for these single mothers that are working 3 to 4 jobs?
For some of them, it is.
Interesting.
For some of them, it is.
I'm glad you bite that bullet, because most people are not going to say that it's a moral failure of
Okay,
people that are born.
This is where I started to get really frustrated. So the thing that I don't think he did not demonstrate in the first half of this that he is connected to the bigger picture. To have this conversation right now, you have to say, listen, we're in a situation right now where that single mother is getting eaten alive. And the reason she's getting eaten alive is bad social policies and bad economic policies. Obviously, anybody that's listening to me right now knows I walk through all of my greatest hits on what's exactly going wrong. You can round it to inflation. If you can acknowledge, listen, the system is broken. This is why I had an easy time talking to Hassan, is like, we both agree on the problem. We just don't agree on the cause. Therefore, we don't agree on the solution. But we agree, this thing is happening. This is a bad thing. People not being able to afford housing, as one example, is a catastrophe that has to be remedied. If PBD had said that, yes, that is a catastrophe. While I'm sure there are some people out there that really are just being lazy and living off the public dime, that's not our big problem right now. Yeah. Our big problem right now is we've got terrible policy, both financial and social. And he does talk about the dissolution of the family later. But you've got to explain to people, I can describe the world that you see in a way that you'll recognize it. This is like the great test for physics. Any new theory of physics has to describe the world as we see it. If you can't explain how I'm going to step out of a 3rd-story window, I'm going to fall. If your theory of physics does not account for that, we have a problem. So you've got to show people, listen, my theories about capitalism describe the world that you're seeing. So let me explain to you all the broken shit. Then I can get into why the incentives or whatever, he obviously makes multiple claims throughout the video, but why the incentives are broken. All right, we got to stop there. Guys, boy, did I miss this. I really missed it. We have a special event going on this week, Friday. I hope you guys will all join me. This is a Zero to Founder Masterclass, AI Masterclass, this Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Please join me. We're going to be doing something special, but only for the people that show up. A thing that I've seen other people charge hundreds, some people thousands of dollars for. We're going to be giving away for free around an AI resources technically that we've created here. We're going to be giving to you free if you show up. So come, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to launch a business by creating AI personnel for your company. And we've got a set of free things only for the people that show up. Come, you're going to want this. It's very cool. So if you've ever had any interest in starting a company, you're not going to want to miss this, whether you've ever thought about AI or not. I will make this very accessible for you guys. We've got some cool tools we're going to be giving away free, but only if you're there. So this Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific time, Zero to Founder is growing like a weed. The last 5 months on the Impact Theory University side has been absolutely incredible for us. I really think it is the lives paying off. People get to hear how I think through problems. If you're thinking about starting a business, come join me. I will show you how to think through business problems. First principles thinking is the only way. So this Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific time, please join me. If you're there, you're going to learn, you're going to get access to these tools, and you're going to learn a lot about how to launch a 5-member AI team. I'll show you how to do that. All right, guys, thank you. I missed you guys so much. I'm glad we're back together, and I will see you on Friday, same time, 6 a.m. Pacific. All right, everybody. Peace out. Later.
Link in the description.
Oh, yep. Link in chat. Later.